It's your mother favorite host alongside your dad's favorite casters. We got DDK, ZP, Puckett was given a pen, and I've also got a list of people we need to shout out. DDK, the subs keep climbing in, and if we get 280 more, ZP is going to be dressed up like Abrams on a future night shift. This is crazy talk.
Yeah, why are we dressing everybody up? It is Halloween, actually, around the corner, so that one hell of a Halloween show.
It is. Big shout out to Loppelcopter. Of course, our Patreons, AFA, Young Calc, Flint Snow, our 3 top Patreons at the moment are back in the stream. And also some of our co-streamers are in here, including Metro. Metro, how down bad the kid who came into chat asking you to unban his friend in Deadlock. That is the worst I've ever seen. Shout out to these folks on this way. But ZP, has anyone come to you to ask if like one of your friends could unban their friend?
Every now and then, but you see, the key for me in any channel I have mod in is that I'm just really bad at ever using mod powers, so I never use them. I never use it to ban or unban. The sword is completely ceremonial, so if you want to get unbanned, I'm not the person to ask. It will never happen, just because I won't do it.
All right, I'm getting stuck up here in the goo, but let's catch everyone up with where we're at in the show, DDK, because we just had our EU Challenger matchup, and Lodos, they did not survive very long with 3 of the 6 new heroes in the game. Those characters got bopped up on by a regular opponent here in the grand finals, Buff and Joy, who now take on him.
I think Puck is lagging. Is Puck lagging?
Talk to me about this squad, DDK.
There we go. I came in. There we go. All right, he's stuck in the cube. He's stuck in the goo. It's doing things to his internet. He needs to get out of there. That's got a duration extender on it. Anyway, so right. Well, there's questions about Buff Enjoyers, right? Are you back, Puckett? You sound like you're back. You look like you're back.
We don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but it's staticky though. Like
I was flubbing around in the glue there.
Yeah, it's back, sort of. You know, it's in and out.
Check. Let's move on with Buff Enjoyers roster. Show them the roster card as we talk about the team you just watched. ZP, what should I know about this team?
I think what you have to know about Buff Enjoyers is that they're not a team that usually will take multiple losses in a row. I think history has shown in Deadlock that they are the most adaptive team in Deadlock history. Their coaching just gives them an edge where even if they get absolutely knocked out in a week, they come back the next week with a new look. And I think the biggest adaptation we've seen here so far is that they got Grey Talon to hell and back last week by Abrahams, and now they've turned what was a weakness perhaps into a strength, being willing to just put Dimov onto it from the get-go. My expectation, though, for Abrahams, I'm not sure either team's going to get to play it based on what we've seen so far. I think it's going to get banned.
Yeah, very well could be the case. I'm just super curious to see, what this team Abrahams is going to be able to accomplish, because we know that there's like hot contestation for so many different things. Like what ABL is going to be on is I think going to be really interesting for me, because he's like the guy that's probably going to pull out the Great Talent if that option is ever available. But like I could see that getting banned out potentially by Abrahams. As we said, this team does think pretty similarly about the game. I don't think we're going to see Infernus. I feel like Infernus is kind of dead right now. Am I right, ZP?
He hasn't been great right now, is what I'll say. You look at the pick ban from last week, where maybe we'll show the last week pick ban as we get into NA, but he wasn't picked at all, which is kind of interesting because he's usually been a mainstay, but he's kind of been supplanted by people going, you know what, we'd have actually just rather run the 7 instead.
Yeah, very true. And, I don't know if Kelvin will make it through either. It's very possible. I think we saw Kelvin make it through, I believe, in the very final map of the last showdown between these two teams last week. And Kelvin was super dangerous. So it's just one of those other picks. We're getting to a stage in the game where it's getting really interesting with the bans, because you're always going to be left with dangerous picks that are open and available to the other team. And we see Shiv still being a great pickup too, and if you can ever get the Shiv Kelvin combo, that's also still pretty good. So it's gonna be a lot of fun as we can see the matchup history here.
Yeah, as you take a look, it was Buff Enjoyers taking the first two. Abraham's taking shift number 4, though. And that first shift, we of course should say went to the Abraham. So they're 2-2. This is fight number 5. And ZP, we just got hit with 10 gifted from 99 Live. Shout out to my guy 99. He knows this is going to be a fire matchup. It's gone back and forth, and I don't feel like we've had the same MVP. Everyone has had a turn stepping up for their squad. Who do you think is the most dangerous entering the server today? Could you narrow in on one player for each team?
I mean, I think when you look at Abraham's, the answer probably has to be ABL. ABL, regardless of what team he's been on, he has been a force to be reckoned with. He was really the main reason why Aegis Aurora was able to, win tournaments at the beginning of the year. He's why One Win Team became part of the Holy Trinity later on. And filling in for Hoot, who left Abraham's to go to Buff Enjoyers. Those were big shoes to fill, given that Hoot, many people believe Hoot to maybe be the best player in Europe, for example. And ABL came in and still kept Abraham's very competitive. So I think ABL dictates a lot for Abraham's. And, by comparison to Buff Enjoyers, I think you could nominate Listic, you could nominate Hoot, you could nominate Dmov, and you'd be completely right. I think there's really no weak point on Buff Enjoyers. They're just really well-rounded.
All right, we're getting into the draft. Who is going to go with the first ban? It looks like Abraham's have it loaded up, and we'll find out who they want to avoid in-game. In the meantime, a shout-out to a wild seal. We have Obi Macaroni coming through, and Abraham's making sure that Abrams is not going to be used against him. They've seen enough from Listic's play in the previous matchup, DDK.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous pick. But there's also so many other ones. Obviously, I'm still curious, what Buff Enjoyers are going to go with. Okay, so it's Billy. So they definitely value Billy really highly. Obviously, we saw it get first picked. So it's definitely moved a lot up in terms of priority for all of the teams. But this is where maybe we could see a great talent opening from Abraham's, because I definitely think you want to deny it. And you have ABL that can play it. So it feels like that's what this has to be.
ZP, I see that Billy is going to be removed first from Buff Enjoyers. Is that going to dictate play style with Mo and Krill as our first player locked in?
I think Mo and Krill got picked early here because frontliners have been on a flash sale here. You got rid of Listic, you got rid of Billy, and Abraham decided, okay, we need a little bit of beefiness to our frontline. We got to pick up the Mo. So for Buff Enjoyers now, I wonder if this puts more pressure on them to pick up, say, the Geist earlier, or pick up, something like Yamato, Shiv. But instead they go, wait, Paradox didn't get banned. Paradox got first banned early in the last round, and they said, hey, Paradox didn't really get nerfed that much, and now is probably the definitive playmaker in the game. We want to grab that. And I wonder now if they'll back up the GT based on the priority we saw before. That would make sense to me from what Buff Enjoyers showed, and that's what they go with.
If you don't know what a GT is, you were me 4 weeks ago. That's the little eagle maker. It's actually an owl. That's Grey Talon, and Buff Enjoyers are making sure Dmov has it available. The Viscous may be a thing of the past. Is ZP onto something? It seems that we may have some new comps for the Buff Enjoyers as they look to reclaim their throne. On the other side, Abraham's, what will they grab with the Mo and Krill? A Viscous, the super survivor, the man who gets away from as much damage as you can throw at him. DDK, I like these opening picks from Abraham's. What do you want to pair with it?
I mean, there's lots of different ways they could go. I think Kelvin could be an interesting pick. I think later down the line, they could be thinking about a Lash. What are some of the more natural counters to the GT? How can you make his life more hellish? And Bebop is one of those potential choices because of the hook. You can hook him out of the sky. There's definitely some good interactions there with Bebop. But it's interesting to see Bebop's kind of back, because Bebop was very much not back for like a week ago.
Bebop was on the struggle bus. Low tier character. Now the new buffs and nerfs coming in. ZP, did Hoot show you enough on Bebop to give you faith in the previous match? I know he'll be going up against it with Yamato being selected for Buff Enjoyers.
I think Gunbop is scary. I mean, realistically, you love the idea of Hook giving you some intros in the team fights, but it's seeming like right now if you build Gunbop, you're actually just scary, just holding down your laser and making things happen. Looking at Yamato getting picked here, though, I think Buff Enjoyers had to pick it. All the other frontline options have just been completely drained, and given that Buff Enjoyers usually were one with at least 2 good frontliners, I have to expect that coming out of the mid-stage bans, if it is not picked by Abraham's first, Geist should be one of the first things off the board, I think, for either team here.
Okay, let's minimize the rage bait over there, YouTube. Settle down, focus in on Deadlock, all right? It's the night shift. Crack open a beer, a cocktail, whatever you need to chill out and enjoy the games, because we've got some good ones coming your way. This is an EU final we've seen 4 times in the past. It's gone 2-2. Now we've got the bands officially locked in. No Lash, no Lady Geist. It's time for the final 3 picks. And if we're thinking about compositions, how would you describe the 2 teams? Kelvin is coming in for Buff Enjoyers. ZP, what are you seeing from Buff Enjoyers first?
I mean, I think for Buff Enjoyers, they're trying to compensate for the fact that they weren't able to get something like an Abrams or a Billy to begin with. You end up with the Amato, and then you back up with the Kelvin, where also Kelvin is one of those heroes where I think Abrahams may have picked it. It's one of Saint's comfort picks, and is also one of the heroes that generally can slow down a Yamato. Yamato pop shell transformation goes in, and a frozen shelter sort of ruins your day. So I actually think, given what Abrahams likes to pick, it being a comfort pick for Saint, I think that the Kelvin pick here from Buff Enjoyers was really smart. It may cost them getting something like a Geist, but so far that doesn't appear to be the case.
All right.
Pocket and 7 locking in from Abrahams. It's looking like a comp that I've seen for Buff Enjoyers in the past. Abraham's looking pretty strong in my opinion so far. One last character to lock in. Buff Enjoyers get their 5th pick. Any predictions here, DDK? We're getting late in the draft.
I definitely like Abraham's comp a lot, just because it is it's very good at being disruptive. You know, we talk about this term a lot, but you know, Pocket, Bebop, Viscous, Murray, Krill, like, are all really good at getting in and being slippery. You have the tankiness, you got the lockdown, so, and you got lots of squishy opponents on Buff Enjoyers. So I feel like they're gonna have, Abrahams will have a better time in the mid game in the invasion dynamics. So that's what I'm liking about their lineup so far.
Super Level saying, Pucking cast Deadlock now? Welcome in, first-time chatters. No, but I am part of the Project Night Shift crew, and I get to host all of the fun shows. We've got Rivals coming your way tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'll be at Disney World. I'll be missing out because I'm hanging out with princesses instead, but ZP will be here with all the bros bringing you that fun. We also have Counter-Strike coming your way on Saturday with DDK at the helm, and officially Deadlock continues right now as Mirage and Ivy will be our 6th character for each side. We've got our team set. I'm told there is a game update needed, so while we're waiting on this game to kick off, production, if we can, I'd love to bring up the buffs and nerfs one more time, because ZP, this game is constantly being worked on. We saw the visual overhaul. Now we are seeing the character overhaul with some major buffs going to Grey Talon, Mina, and Shiv. Some major nerfs going out to crew like Vindicta and Warden, who actually made it into the game here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Warden got in because the frontline options got decimated at the beginning of the draft, and Warden is probably going to be in that sort of back state of like, well, if nothing else is available, because the Spirit nerf was pretty significant. However, Vindicta straight up died. Like, Vindicta has not been seen in the picks or bans, despite being in previous weeks an all-time first pick, first ban, basically every draft, every region. So, I mean, look, you know, find a Photoshop, put some blue feet sticking out of a dumpster, because she's gone. I mean, the nerfs were catastrophic, and you know, I do wonder if that means Vindicta is going more towards rework territory, because they were easily the most severe that we saw out of any of the changes that were otherwise in the patch notes.
DDK, you've been here since the beginning of the hype around Deadlock. Is there any characters you're hoping to see a resurgence after some of these game changes, or maybe just people trying to mix them in with some of the new popular characters?
I want to say Dynamo, but I also don't want to say Dynamo. I don't know.
You really?
Dynamo is a fun one, and I just, the thing is, I want to see him because I feel bad that he doesn't get any play, but also I'm fine with him not getting any play. So I'm just very conflicted. But he's the one I think that's gotten like the rawest deal in terms of not really making much of an appearance or being that relevant when it comes to any of the drafts. I think just generally over the course of all of Deadlock.
Love these call outs. If you're wondering why we haven't started the game, the players are just finishing their updates right now. We'll be jumping in as soon as we can. Quick reminder, if you're just tuning in, this show is officially presented by Intel, the newest sponsor here of the Night Shift. And of course, Intel has the gamer days going on. If you are in need of a new gaming laptop, you're just headed back to school, maybe you need a new PC for the dorm, Intel has you covered, and if you participate in Gamer Days right now, ZP, you can get a free game. And what college kid doesn't need a free game, especially something as explosive as Battlefield 6?
I mean, you couldn't have said any better. The best price of all is free, and Intel is helping you make it happen. All part of the magic of Gamer Days. Lots of cool stuff. Just check out, the links in chat and follow them along. See if you can score some free stuff for yourself. But yeah, I'm excited to see this take place, and where this game is going to go. That we're getting into right now. The draft is super, super interesting, and again, I think my question here is how the Warden is going to perform. The Ivy, by the way, is 100% going to be Gun Ivy. Like, you're wondering who Zergy's going to play? It's going to be Zergy on the Ivy for sure. So Buff Enjoyer's digging a little bit deep into the well, but also it's an indictment on Infernus. We kind of talked about, hey, Infernus has fallen out of favor. Yeah, we're back in the era where people would rather play a Gun Ivy than put Zergy onto the Infernus. So the times are changing.
DDK, I know you have a hard out tonight, but we're trying to get you into this finals as quick as possible. Is there a way that you just roll your opponent in a finals here between these two teams? Because the last two matches I've watched have gone 29 minutes. We're going deep into the 40s at times between these two squads. What is the shortest roll that you have seen in the finals? Is there a way we finish in sub 20?
Between these two teams, I don't think that's going to be a possibility. I think I think that both comps have a lot to offer in both the early lane and the mid laning phase, and both teams have proven to be really consistent and stable. And you've got all of, I think, the relevant archetypes or roles that you'd want to make sure that for both teams you're able to do and take care of everything. You're able to either defend the pressure or be one to pressure yourself. You've got the 7 for Abrahams that can be that one that farms. You've got Mirage that can be the one that split pushes. You've got a whole host of characters that can apply pressure and then set up team fights. Got the lockdown, got the disruption. But for Buff Enjoyers, they also have a lot of great team fight. They've got a lot of spirit damage. Ivy's really good at the jungle invades. It's really mobile as well to set up ganks. You've got a lot of really great tools on both sides, and both of these teams again kind of really understand Deadlock the best of any team right now that we have in the entire Deadlock space. So I think we're destined to go into the 30 minutes at least.
ZP, one of the coolest parts of being on YouTube is we're getting a lot of people who aren't necessarily Deadlock players. They're tuning in for the first time, so keep that in mind as we kick things off. This is your EU Grand Final. 2 wins for Abrahams, 2 wins for Buff Enjoyers. Who wins shift number 5 to claim the EU crown? It's time to find out. On the mic, it's DDK and ZP. Take it away, Dan.
Yes. It's going to be really, really fun to see the dynamics. We've recently had this new patch that's changed the priorities. EP. It's changed the value. Warden's in this game, but Warden received some of the biggest nerfs. And I mean, Warden was great, but how much has he been affected? We don't know fully until we see these teams, the best in the world, do it.
I'll say, someone that gets quite a bit of Warden in myself, that the change is one where it puts you in scenarios where last stands where you would have just barely lived and killed 2 people pre-patch. Now the spirit scaling is such that you're probably going to die and those 2 people are going to live. So an edge case last patch that you would have lived in, you now die in this patch. I still think Warden is actually pretty good, but he's not the overwhelming, good in every situation the way that he was previously. But, when your frontline picks get decimated, sometimes you got to pick what's available.
Yeah, and just checking the lane combos out. We've got Merrin Krill and Bebop for Abrahams in mid. And actually, we got a lane swap potentially because Merrin Krill, Saint is going over to the left lane there.
Yeah, they're freeing up the Mirage, saying, okay, Mirage, go over the mid, give a little bit of help to Bebop, because this is a nasty middle lane coming in from Buff Enjoyers, where their ideal scenario is that they not only win mid, but then you leave Demov there to just, or actually, they changed it up. Demov is on the Paradox. They put Hoot on to the GT, but I think the general idea of how you use the GT is going to be the same, where it's just going to be Hoot being the Owl Master this time around, creating terror on the left and right lanes. Although, hey, wait. They're swapping. We got more shenanigans going on here. It is the full lane swap where they're actually putting the GT into left lane.
Oh. Okay, that's not easy to escape, and that's one of the reasons you're seeing Mirage leave that lane. That's not fun. The Kelvin Ice Beam is really oppressive. We do have 2 players from Buff and Joyers, rejoining the left lane here. ABL on the Pocket. Pocket's got a great pressure game, but we'll have to see how well that's actually going to work out in this particular case. Stoneform coming on through. Nice stun on to the 7, and it looks like the chase down is going to take out Jamside there, so that is a win for Buff and Joyers.
Also, with the swaps, this may be Pocket's worst nightmare, where you think about Pocket not enjoying getting hit with spirit damage early on. Now you got to land against the GT and the Paradox, so ABL is going to be playing just dodge and hope you don't get hit by things.
New question here, fam. Sorry, ZP. I'm looking here. It's 10K to 11K. It was just 9K to 11K. How important are these early kills?
They're important, but not so much for the aggregate souls as much as getting the Guardians down. Guardian HP, probably the most important thing in the early game in getting ahead. Hook here on the Amato. A little bit of extra HP damage going in, but once you get the early Guardians down, it opens up your lane to create lane mismatchups in the other lanes and, use that to solidify your advantage, get into the enemy jungle. So, kills, it just loses you lane momentum that can lose you Guardian, which then, the dominoes continue to fall and lose you other things in turn.
Indeed. Well, we've got some more action in this mid lane again. That ice path still pretty oppressive. Speaking of some of the Guardian damage, we'll get a lick of it there coming on through from the Overkim on Buff and Joyers. And there we go. We've got Saint coming back in. They're trying to get that heal with the Scorn. Still quite weak though. So yeah, speaking of Guardian pressure, definitely on the successful side for Buff and Joyers at the moment on that mid lane.
I do think the rotations have been quite good in a way for Abrahams, just in the sense that once Owl does come online for Hoot, it's not going to have the range. Like, instead of having the threat that's map wide, the threat is basically just sending it over the middle. So, Buff and Joyers, they basically opted here, Dan, that they'd rather have the bigger micro advantage in lane than the bigger macro advantage on the map once Hoot gets a 3.4K.
Yeah, that's very true. And I'm curious, how this lane on the left is going to go, because Mirage Pocket's a pretty decent lane combination. Pocket can apply maximum pressure with all of his burst damage, and Mirage can keep pushing the lane and also be a very consistent damage dealer, as well as provides a lot of sustain, especially if he gets that Mystic Regeneration online. So it's definitely a solid lane, I think, for Abrahams.
Reactive Barrier coming on up here from Listic. Not too big of a surprise with Bebop and Mo on the other end. Mo looking kind of low, hoping the Scorn bails him out, but may just be in the sweet spot where you can take down the Mo. Shout transformation in from Listic, another flying strike. Senses weakness, not just on the Mo, but also for the Bebop. Sees the parry, doesn't get baited, makes it a quick 2.
Ooh, this is a huge problem because this Guardian is just going to go down. It's just going to go down now, and we talked about the importance of that objective, and at the 5-minute mark, this mid Guardian is mega value. It allows you to get a lot more map control, start doing ganking. You can start helping other lanes if you want to. So it does really open up the game here for Buff and Joyers and place them at a distinct advantage for now.
Yeah, and I would expect here they'd either lane swap someone else in the middle or just have Obakim be the one to rotate around. Overall, I think they're going to try and funnel more farm the Listic in middle. The more, the merrier, as it were. And speaking of lane swaps, okay, Pocket had enough of dealing with the GT lane. So Pocket has swapped back over the middle. And now this kind of opens the window, potentially, for Hoot to make the swap in the mid and then Listic to swap over to left-hand side. We'll see. But it makes sense that ABL wanted to avoid the GT one-on-one.
And now we have a Pocket in the mid lane as well here for, that's ABL. So a lot of swapping that's been going on. We'll see if there's any more luck there for them, because they still need to get that Guardian down. Just not even a single bit of damage. This mid lane has been absolutely dominated, ultimately by Listic. Okay, there's some invasion happening. Looks like Taz is able to send Listic away with the uppercut, so keeping the Buff and Joyers players out of the jungle for now. That's Owl getting sent across the map.
Yeah, I mean, it had the giveaway and then decides actually gonna go back over the home and hit a few creeps, but was on the lookout and dangerously close to hitting ABL. But still, I mean, the fact that you've pushed Hoot over into the left-hand side, less options to be had. But early Majestic Leap gonna come in on Pocket. Makes all the sense in the world. Probably one of the most core items in the game for any hero is a Pocket with Leap. I mean, it's been that way in Deadlock since basically the beginning, Dan.
DDK, they're saying GG game is over. Is chat faded or are they right?
I think seems a little premature. Well, it seems a little premature, but we will see. We will see. Definitely an advantages for Buff Enjoyers, no doubt. Listic off to a great start, as is Oberkim. You know, they are carving out a 4K soul lead, which is substantial at this point. But again, Abrahams is a very, very skilled team. We'll see if they're able to do anything here. And there is the pocket pressure coming on through. 80 HP for Listic on the escape. And it's very hard to get away from a pocket, though, as you can see. ABL, one of the best in the business, able to take down Listic. So that is an early good sign. And speaking of which, 7.3k souls for ABL. He's actually leading the entire server, despite Abrahams being overall behind.
It's more impressive when you consider the fact that ABL also just had the continually move with all the lane swap shenanigans, but Bo getting kind of low. Instead, though, Buff and Jor saying, let's keep the pressure here onto the Guardian. Dmov, you can chase down the mole, rotate over into the left-hand side as Buff and Jor is just trying to add on extra Guardian. But you've got Abrahams coming in on their own rotation here. ABL over and in. Tass up. Hyper Beam. That's one way to melt the ice. Looking awfully unpleasant for Oberkim. Ends up getting burned down. So the counter rotation super effective here from Abrahams. Stops some of the momentum that Buff and Jor was enjoying.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of these hero picks really starting to come into a good place in terms of the utility as we start to exit this early laning phase. Okay, there's the last stand. That's going to be a good defensive tool here for Sharik there as he tries to fend off the Abrahams players. And he's getting thrown around a little bit there. That's a lot of damage from Viscous, but in comes the Warden, still trying to do what he can here to try to protect this side of the map, and it's not looking all that good here. Great parry off of reaction, and in fact, it's going to convert into a kill on together. That's actually such a great job.
Godlike. Ultimate team up combo going in there where you use the airdrop in the last stand for, you know, that extra little hit of Warden mobility. You know, something that Jason has been waiting to see for a while. Just any airdropped combinations, really. But hey, heat of battle ends up working out. Owl taking flight right now from Hoot, going somewhere on the map. Just heard the screech, Dan. Just heard the screech.
Yeah, it's a scary sound. Everybody take cover. Looks like ABL might be in an interesting spot there. Like 1v2 on the lane as he's just trying to farm up. ABL is really important. He's 11k souls actually at this point. So he's actually managing to significantly increase his soul lead, which is really important. If Pocket gets these really big power spikes very early, then he can take over the game. So we'll have to see what ABL can do with that, because given how behind Abrahams have started here, they're doing a great job to come back, and ABL is going to be a key piece in getting them ahead if that's an opportunity that they get.
I think it's the most ahead we've seen a Pocket get in recent memory. I mean, Buff Enjoyers, we've had Hoot playing a lot of Pocket, but it hasn't been on the level of being as super aggro as ABL has been at the Pocket. It's been, you know, a little bit less greedy on the farm, but ABL has just been full on. There's farm on the map. Yes, I would like to be a part of that, but both teams right now posturing, earn to be in play.
The urn has been dropped.
Yeah, we got the very typical build there from ABL on that Pocket. You get that Majestic Leap really early. Really, really important tool to traverse the map. Get good initiations, get massive momentum coming into fights for the initiation. It's kind of a must. Pick up on Pocket as early as you can. Even gives you a little barrier.
So now the urn going to be taken by Dmov, rotating over to the right. And, you know, you look at how this team fight is going to break down. There is a window here, Dan, where in theory they could force it before Jamside gets the Stormcloud back up. But ABL, again, just pressuring, finding opportunities. This time, getting Hoot really, really low. But Hoot may just have enough mobility to get out and avoid the Pocket. But while this is going on, the urn not being looked at by Abrahams. Buff Enjoyers just able to thread it in.
Yeah, let's stick on the chase down. He's going to find what he's looking for and really getting a good catch here on these Abraham players. Placed down, and so this is a very precarious spot now for Abrahams. He might lose more ABL. I mean, this gets his ult off the affliction. Gets also cubed, and he can straight out of that cube get the majestic leap on there. So the chase not really worth it for Listic at this point. Too much delay, and we'll have to back away. So ABL's been protected, but you can see that the Buff Enjoyers team, they are catching up in terms of the souls, and in fact a 10k separation. And now that lead that ABL had, it doesn't really look all that impressive anymore.
No, the rest of Buff Enjoyers have caught up on an individual level where ABL, did have a brief power spike where you could just bully whoever on the map. You're 11k pocket and, everyone else is at 7k. Yeah, that's a window of opportunity, but that window has closed, and the thing that's making Abrahams look a little bit more broke than they should be is just the Guardian situation. ABL getting that Guardian, gonna even things up a little bit more, but could come at a cost, just eating power shot after power shot, laid in by Hoot. Hoot, rain of arrows on the pursuit. Still wants a little bit more here on the pocket. GT and Ivy on the chase down together, trying to do a little bit of disruption here on the Viscous. Not enough to save as 2 go down for Abrahams.
And now, it does feel like, even though Saint gets that Guardian, it does feel like there is a potential for snowballing to occur. Like you say, just due to the overall lead that Buff Enjoyers are accruing at this point across all the individuals. They are forcing a response on the defense to the right side lane, but now they're able to kind of do a bit of invasion as well. They've got a lot of space on the map to play with, do Buff Enjoyers. So they're in a good spot to make this even worse. Are they really doing this?
I mean, it's looking like it. Is this a great idea versus a team with Viscous on it? This is high risk, high reward, but if Together's able to get there, this is going to be controlled chaos, and the hook comes in! A quick abduction! Who getting pulled out here? The fall through, though, not necessarily going to be there. Is Viscous in range? Here comes the Owl, looking to cover, and the threat of the Owl is enough that Buff Enjoyers get the clean 3 rejuves. So the Gambit Dan pays off.
It really does. It really does pay off, and they're going to get some kills off the back of this. They get the boost on the rejuve, obviously, the stat boost. And they've got the reincarnations available as well. So they're in an insane spot now. ABL's trying to do damage to that right side walker, but he's going to get caught out now. And I mean, again, you get really amazing mobility here. Look at him go. He really wants this walker. He's probably going to die for it. I mean, you can be very slippery as a pocket. Always got to keep that cloak on cooldown, ready to get you out of a difficult spot. But he is surrounded right now. They are chasing him down, and he's going to go down as well. And yeah, ZP... Buff Enjoyers seem to have such a sick understanding of when they can just all collapse on the mid boss and punish positioning errors.
That was a scary call. I mean, I looked at the call, and even from the casting end, I had my doubts, but the read was accurate, and the hook didn't result in a kill. Jamside just getting caught way out of position. Immediately dove on 1-2 punch of Dmov and Listic here on the left. So if you're Abrahams here at this point, not only are you falling pretty significantly far behind, but you need to stop the bleeding. And I think on some level, it's just you have to look to get a few opportunities. The upside is you have a Moan Krill, you have a Bebop. You need to leverage these 2 characters right now to find opportunity on the map, but Buff Enjoyers is not making it easy.
And the Hyper Beam getting ripped up and above, controlling the space. You got the Dome, though, from Kelvin. Hello. A little save on the Viscous. And that is small consolation at this point, trying to get this urn over to a safety. ABL still causing problems, still trying to backdoor. It looks like he's going to get... looks like Warden's going to get pinned down a little bit. Sharik in some trouble. And there is help, but it's not going to come quickly enough. The Kelvin's on the way. Oberkim around the corner. Gets the assist also from Zergi on that Ivy, that gun Ivy. Lots of damage output now. Being put on the right side lane as we get this action on the left. Paradox here, looking to make sure Dmov that this walker does in fact go down. It looks like it is definitely going down here. They still have the 2 rejuves available as well to get them back up if they die, so they can be aggressive like this. And in from the top, Jamside comes in.
Yeah, Jamside Storm Cloud comes out, but it's not a particularly long storm. It's a little bit late to the party. Walker already went down. Creates a little bit of space to retreat, if anything. And yeah, I mean, Abraham's, the problem that they're dealing with now is that Buff Enjoyers off the mid boss, they just use it to get a very definitive macro advantage going forward, getting really good push onto the walkers. And, you know, Abraham's, you're down to one final walker here. Buff Enjoyers still working with 2 rejuvenators. Listic though, under a bit of pressure. That's going to be, he already used one of the, no, Rejuve is up. He gets to come right back up. Cube in response. See the owl floating in and around Listic though, still good to go. Tass hit by the owl, Demov on the fall through on the together, and Buff Enjoyers just swarming this mid walker, looking 3 for 3. They're gonna get it.
Yeah, massive pressure from the Buff Enjoyers team. As soon as they picked up some pace, they just never let it go. And Abraham's, I think their heads are spinning. Oh my goodness, that's a huge pull coming on through, and there's not much you can do about that.
That's one combo in the game that if you get hit by hook into combo, you're probably not getting away, especially with enough damage there. Shout transformation not going to matter when you don't get the chance to even use it. Last Rejuve has been burned, and yeah, Obakim in a bit of danger here. You look behind, it is a sea of yellow. And okay, Frozen Shelter probably should have been saved in this case because it was not going to save you. Overall, though, incredibly good use of Rejuvenator by Buff Enjoyers. They get 3 walkers. Even if they give up a few kills on the back-end side, very well worth it, Dan.
Yeah, and the punish on the ABL there, I think, makes all the difference because with those kills that Abraham's able to get, if ABL managed to stay up, I feel like there's work they could have done on the map with it, but unfortunately, getting caught there. I mean, we've seen ABL on a lot of solo missions, which makes sense. As Pocket, you are able to do that. You're one of the slipperiest heroes in the game. Lots of escape mechanisms. But does get caught, and his Zergy is just farming as Zergy tends to. 23k souls, highest value on the server right now.
Yeah, Zergy's in win condition mode. You wonder what's Zergy's contribution right now to the game for most elements of it? Farm. And then once Zergy gets to around 35, 40k, Zergy becomes win condition, in this instance on the Gun Ivies. So Zergy's goal right now is just absorb statues, absorb souls, get really big, and become the, you know, WM1 hero of your dreams in the end game.
Indeed, and with most of the map being farmed up, it does put Abraham's a little bit more behind in the sense that Buff Enjoyers have maximum map control, and Abraham's will struggle to gain souls back. Obviously, there is the combat mechanic. You do get a bonus souls when you're behind. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to really make a difference here. Maybe you're trying to farm whatever is left on the map. Well, Cultist is up as well, actually, but there's no tier 3 creeps for him.
Dan, I'll draw your attention to, you look at who's hanging out together. Tass and Saint, best buddies right now, because you are just looking for hook into combo to get things going. And look, for Abraham's, one of their best opportunities to get back into the game, to get a good team fight, is for Tass to sit here, be an assassin on the Bebop, land a hook, and go from there. And right now, they think they may have another opportunity, another combo out, but you have Obakim in there with the Frozen Shelter, kind of interrupting this ambush attempt coming in from Abraham. So they're going to drop the Storm Cloud, try and make things a little bit spicier, and get the Hyper Beam off to the side, but it's turned into a bit of chaos. I think Buff Enjoyers man Joy, who was just barely able to get out at low HP, found the purchase to get the owl out. ABL, though, able to take down one. Buff Enjoyers still a little bit riled the way the start. Demov able to equalize, finding one of his own. Jam side caught towards the very end. The ult's all used here for Abraham's, and Buff Enjoyers able to stay on top in what was a very messy opening to the fight, but one that really got saved by Obakim in the Frozen Shelter.
Oh no, and just that fight right into the mid-boss spawning couldn't really get worse than that right now for Abraham's, as Buff Enjoyers can pick up this series of rejues after they kill the mid-boss and really put the game away, at least map 1, because this is going to be an overwhelming advantage now. You'd expect their soul lead to balloon even further, and with that, the stat diff becomes pretty oppressive. I mean, we do have an attempt here from Together to run the urn, but he is certainly going to attract the attention of Buff Enjoyers as they come out of this mid-boss pit.
The timing for that wipe was pretty bad, but also, if you think about it, started with an ambush attempt by Abraham, so I think Abraham's was hoping to, instead of get, you know, a pick on the Listic and go from there and then go into mid boss. But instead, it turns out that, you know, Buff Enjoyers just have a way better rotation. They have the save come in from Obakim. And I mean, realistically, Abraham's, the win conditions have gotten very, very narrow here, Dan.
Certainly. Oh, Saf's gone. He's off. He's
gone.
off. And it's gone. Well, in terms of what Abrahams can hope to do here, I mean, the problem is that with the rejuvenation, I feel like it's actually worse in terms of, you know, how difficult it is to play against than the old rejuve, because the old rejuve, you know, you didn't get like revived when you died. You know, you just get all of the buffs and so on. So so that whole, like, you know, situation when you're behind, you've somehow managed to get a kill, and then they just res. So it's pretty strong.
I mean, the Rejuvenator is very, very good at ending the game with a good team fight, because the reality is that even if you get an early pickoff, you can't really stay because of the instant res that's going to be coming on in. And I think we'll see how teams end up developing on it, but I do think there's actually, in a way, more incentive to try and go for elements of a steal where it's not all or nothing. But for example, if you were able to split a 4 rejuve 2 and 2, it just means that you have more of an odds of actually winning a real team fight after, because winning a team fight when the other team has 4 rejuve charges is much, much easier said than done. Because you think about Abrahams and how they're looking to play. Their comp is set up around this idea of getting one really good, clean, guaranteed pickoff. But if Task gets that hook and they're able to immediately combo and go in, Buff Enjoyers are just going to go, okay, everyone dive in. And even if that first pick dies, Dan, they come right back up and you have Buff Enjoyers in your face and you're down your combo in a Mo-based comp. You're not going to win that fight.
Quick question from chat. They looked up, they saw Zergy is at level 29. You have opponents, 3 of them at level 17. Are you sure this game isn't over, DDK?
Well, at this point, considering that the rejuve, yeah, it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad indeed. And in fact, they are now just running it down into the base. So this is likely where it all ends here for Abrahams. Buff Enjoyers, they do lose 1 rejuve, but they are surely going to still be in a great spot there. Shriek actually goes down a second time, so that he's actually gone.
He's full gone. However, second stage patron is coming on in, and Buff Enjoyers will see if they stay the course. May not be the case here yet, given the fact that Listic is off, acquiring more golden statue power, hitting the vaults, and going from there. So I don't think you go all in while Listic isn't there. But they still have over half the time left on the rejuve. They're going to be able to go in once Shriek comes up and go for the full end. I think if you're Buff Enjoyers, you end this now. There's a difference between being super safe and being smart. And when you have second stage patron and still 3 rejuve charges, that to me is the time that you go in and try and finish the game.
Yeah, certainly. This is when your advantage is still pretty enormous. So there we go. This is the opening that makes it even easier. But okay, a quick cube.
Oh,
Let's go send the bird back. And in fact, actually, it's going to translate into the downside. It's creating problems. That cube, it made all the difference here. Oh my goodness, completely countering the fight. And look at Abrahams. They found their moment to go in, and over the top we'll get the ice beam, the ice bombs, as Kelvin tries to save the day here. But there's the combo. That's going to lock down the Paradox out of the fight, and this is getting quite awkward here for Buff Enjoyers.
I mean, they're still able to take down ABL and try and bring this one back, but the opening could not have been better for Abrahams. However, isn't going to be enough. They're still way behind. The last hit comes in from Shriek, forcing movement back into the fountain. Demov picks off another onto Saint, and Buff Enjoyers say, you know what, it was a good attempt, but we're still going in on the patron. You don't have the firepower to stop us. No Storm Cloud left in the tank, and Buff Enjoyers just get to lay in the damage onto the patron. They take the first map in our best of 3, and they are certainly looking for revenge from last week.
The goo was fun to watch, but it wasn't enough. Buff Enjoyers taking out Abrahams, and chat called this one at 7 minutes. And I asked, is there a way we could see a roll under 20 minutes, sub 20? We got to about 2350. Not bad, Buff Enjoyers, keeping us on time for the NA portion of the show coming up in the second half. But Abraham's now on life support. Do you start to mix in some new characters? Because ZP, people in the chat were noticing Mirage was the most recently dropped character, and he's been out for a minute here in Deadlock.
Yeah, Mirage is also one of those characters that I don't think is ever truly bad. I think in a game like this where macro decisions make so much of a difference, Mirage being not only an early game lane bully with his autos, but having the unparalleled ability to teleport across the map with Traveler, I feel like Mirage is always going to be good unless his stats take a mega nosedive. I think in this case, it just got remembered that, oh yeah, Mirage is still a good character.
Shout out to everyone who's tuning in over on Twitch. We are nearing 2,000 concurrent viewers. We've also kicked over 1,200 on YouTube. And for my friends on YouTube, I know the world is a dark place today, especially on some of the social medias. So tell your friends, ignore that shit. Join the night shift, grab a cocktail, and watch some Deadlock, because you got two of the best casters and two of the best teams bringing you all of the games. We got to take a look here at the numbers for our first game. And DDK, was there a standout player? Before you even get a glance at some of the statistics, who do you think was dropping some bombs on us?
I think Listic, I mean, it's hard. It's always hard with Buff Enjoyers, but for Listic had the biggest early game impact for me. You're really dominating that mid lane, and obviously that set up Buff Enjoyers with that first early big advantage, I think way ahead of schedule. And that's the kind of trajectory setting that makes a massive impact on the course of the rest of the game. And so Listic is the one that jumps out to me straight away.
Great call out there. Mr. ZP, who did you enjoy watching in our first of 3 potential games here in the EU final?
I think what I enjoyed watching from the Abraham side, look, it didn't work out in the end, but we saw like kind of the old trademark ABL coming out as far as aggressiveness on the pocket. We're just going, I'm going to try and make plays. It's going to work. And that was sort of what put teams like Aegis Aurora and later One Win Team on the map. Just this relentless, commitment to going for aggro plays. And also, I do think the Mo Bebop combo, I mean, look, it's an old combo, but it checks out. It's one of the ways to secure kills, make good things happen. I just think that realistically, Abraham's got way too far behind from what was an absolutely decisive, ridiculous shot call from Buff Enjoyers to go mid-boss with everyone still up on both sides, because Buff Enjoyers, not only was that call gutsy, but that call was converted into 3 walkers. So it didn't really matter what microplay that Abraham's kind of had in store when Buff Enjoyers just got that big of a macro windfall so early into the game.
You can see the early takedowns of the Guardians led to the snowball for Buff Enjoyers. You called out Listic, helping get those opening picks. Saint a victim, not once, but twice. This was my favorite play of the game, though. I tweeted this one out. The parry together, then getting picked off by 3 different players. The grenade landing perfectly. Sherrick stays alive. The push continues, and Buff Enjoyers roll. As we get to the later portions of this one, walk me through it, DDK. Who had the best highlights in the second half?
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be Buff Enjoyers overall. I think there's definitely some honorable mentions. I think to some of the performances that ABL had. I think with Pocket you can always get some flashy stuff, but Listic, I think with those flying strikes again, and I think especially that double kill that he managed to get early in the game. I think that was like one of the coolest plays, and you don't often put a lot of weight on double kills, but he converted that also into the Guardian. That was like the moment where that first Guardian did go down. So for me, that really encapsulated his value through that one highlight in that early game. So I'm going to go with that one.
I like these call outs. ZP, question for you. Chat was talking about the gun Ivy, the paradox. What was a bigger issue? Which one do you try and focus down, if either, going into a game 2 for Abrahams?
Well, I think in terms of what to look at, I think giving up Paradox right now is actually more painful than it was before, because Holiday has actually dropped in value from what we've seen so far, not getting hit as much because her early game value went down a lot with the changes to barrel scaling and the changes to her gun damage early on. So I think if there was a key mistake made in the draft coming in from Abrahams, it was probably giving up Paradox in the first place. I don't think you want to give up Paradox when Paradox basically maintains like 99% of the power that the hero had before the most recent patch.
All right, we've got some new subs rolling in. A big shout out to everyone who just joined the crew over here at Deadlock Night Shift on twitch.tv. We are rolling strong. Thank you to everyone, especially the members over on youtube.com/Deadlock Night Shift. And of course, the one viewer on Kick. I don't know who you are. You're probably part of the crew. Thanks for joining us. In the meantime, we got to give a shout out to the great talent. We're going to have Jake on the show a little bit later. He looks like DDK, but he's got fluffier hair. Dan, you weren't as brave as Jake, but on last week's show, Jake said he would be willing to dress up as a cat. We are now 517 subs from seeing our man friend turn into a kitty cat.
Yeah, and I think we also, he was under the impression that he gets to pick the cat suit. So I feel like we need to nip that one in the bud, because from what I understand, the choice is either ours or the communities. I don't know which yet.
Yeah, apparently I mentioned I would cover myself with green jello. We're going to talk about our viscous cosplay and more. It's Night Shift number 5. Make a drink. We'll be right back with game 2 from EU. Look at Yamato, we just jumped through the wall and entered your bedroom. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Broadband Puckett. We are strong over here. All girth, no dearth of action. We got DDK and ZP, and as soon as I said Broadband Puckett, I started freezing. ZP, we're excited though. We're going into an EU final with a match 2, and this is definitely going to a game 3, right?
Very likely, based on the history between these two teams, where now Buff and Joyers have showed their hand. They show what they like to play. Abrahams, now we'll see if they have the answer in terms of adaptation. I think the obvious notes here, if you are coming in here as Abrahams, is you say, okay, we're not going to let you get the Paradox, because Paradox may just be too good right now after Holiday got thrown a little bit into the dumpster. And on the same note, maybe we try and get the GT for ourselves, because it was using the GT that they beat Buff and Joyers last week, and now Buff and Joyers has used the GT as a key part of their composition to beat them. I think one way or another, you want to flip that script if you're Abrahams.
Great talent getting some major buffs, but it's the Mo and Krill that looks the best these days. And DDK, I'm told if we hit 600 subs, that is officially, let me count, 116 subs away. We're giving away the Deadlock Night Shift Mo and Krill skin for free.
Ooh,
or we're giving it away at the end of the night. But if we get to 600, we're going to do it right away. And a lot of people in chat should be excited about that. We love the new Mo and Krill skin. Big shout out to Ozzy the Lion behind the scenes. ZP, can you tell us the lore behind this? How did this idea come about?
Yeah, I mean, the lore just came about that a Mo and Krill 1v1 just feels a lot better with a custom skin involved. And, here at the Night Shift, we kind of went with that, high-class, speakeasy, little bit mafioso vibe. And it was just like, I went to Ozzy and I was just like, hey, can we get Mo and Krill in a suit? And he did one better. It's just like, I'm going to go a little bit extra on this. We got the tie. The tie moves around. You got the Krill skin with the extra glasses there, as if he's ready to serve you the finest martini you've had in your life. And yeah, it's just a cool concept. And look, it actually works out quite well on Mo. You'd think for a guy rolling in the tunnels, he wouldn't be dignified, but you'd think wrong. Mo cleans up pretty darn well.
Yeah, I'm going to order a drink from the guy on the right and get thrown out of the bar by the guy on the left. I love that we have a gun just randomly pointed at their head as well. Shout out to the amazing designs. And once again, this is Night Shift. It's a community show brought to you by some of the biggest and best casters and talent on the production side from around the world. We're all here because this is a passion project, and we love the dedication the community has shown. Big shout out to all the new members over on YouTube. We've passed the 5,000 follower goal over on Twitch. We are now nearing 500 subs. If we get to 600 subs, we're dropping some skins off on everybody in the chat. Before that, though, we got to watch some more shows. We got some more gameplay coming our way, and Buff and Joyers are about to decide who gets hit with the first ban. DDK, what do you think the challengers this week will do first?
I got better things to do.
Well, there you go, Abrahams. It's been answered. The question's been answered. I feel like a GT ban is definitely something that could be of interest. I feel like the GT is just a problem when Buff and Joyers have that. Obviously, Listic played extremely well in Yamato as well, so I wonder if there's even an argument from that recency bias there that you might be attempted to take away the Yamato, but it's still the Billy that gets the priority here. Is Billy too good, apparently?
Yeah, this is kind of the same thing we saw from the previous game, except different teams with the bans. ZP, before we jump deeper into the draft, chat is already spamming it. Release the Mo. Hashtag release Mo. We can't see any hashtag release Mo's if you don't have a sub badge next to your name. And if you have Amazon Prime, you could get a free sub badge. All you got to do is put your Prime to use over on Twitch, sync your Amazon Prime and your Twitch channel, and make it happen. It's free, it's easy, and we've got Paradox locked in as the first player for Buff Enjoyers. They clearly had success with it in the first game. ZP, it's time to run it back.
Yeah, but I think you're getting a difference here. The difference is going to be the GT locked in from Abraham. So they decide, no, Buff Enjoyers, you don't get to run the entire series using our own secret weapon against us. And now I think, unless Abraham's were to take Viscous, which would be a little unreal, Buff Enjoyers is probably going to respond with a Viscous pick of their own for sure, because D-Mov needs to play something. We'll see what Abrahams decides to put in here with the GT. They decide they want to go with the Kelvin. They lock in Saint's comfort pick. They make the Amato if Buff Enjoyers goes for it a little bit less good. I don't know entirely what Buff Enjoyers is going to pick here, but I can assure you one of the two picks should be a Viscous. If not, I'll be surprised.
Is that Tavik who just hit us with an 18 viewer raid? Thank you for joining the crew. Welcome in, everybody. Mo and Crew has a brand new skin that we're dropping at 600 subs over on twitch.tv/Deadlock Night Shift. Help us get there before the end of the show, and you could be dapper as hell in your next game playing as Mo and Krill, just like the Buff Enjoyers. Back to the action, though. As they lock in Mo, they go back-to-back in DDK. I have a feeling it's more firepower. No. The swords are coming out. They like jumping through walls, apparently.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart choice, because again, it was something that was really strong for Buff Enjoyers in that last matchup. It helped them to just dominate the mid lane. That was the key to them getting that first tower down, was that Yamato play from Listic. And then, I mean, they got to avoid that second round ban, because that's, I think, a chief pick that would come through for it. So yeah, Buff Enjoyers are going for that. And ooh, you don't often get to see the combo of Shiv Kelvin, but here we go.
He did get buffed. Like, Shiv did get buffed, and together and Shiv go very, very well together. So I'm not too surprised to see this. Also, I would think Viscous is going to be the ban here. Like, that'll be the price Buff Enjoyers is going to pay for prioing the Mo and Yamato. But no, actually, okay, I'm wrong. So this is kind of interesting, given that last week, Abraham's part of their victory was denying D-Mov the hero he wanted to play most. They've done a little bit of that in the GT, but surely they're giving up the Viscous in turn. However, they decide, actually, we still think Pocket's really good. We don't want Hoot to play it, so they're taking a different approach.
Good one. Wait, you're serious?
We've got a bunch of awesome folks chiming in. Godhand, Rust Survival, Virtual Shaman, Roadman. Thank you all for the subs. We are now 6 away. Promise FGC, thank you for finding us on Twitter and coming and checking out Deadlock. This is basically League of Legends meets a first-person shooter. I should say a Dota meets an FPS. You've got elements of both. Teamwork is the superior strategy at the end of the day. You're going to see 2-2-2 splits throughout the lanes, and then occasionally some solo play. DDK, what do they know about these compositions, though? Viscous, my favorite character, because he turns into a green goo ball and disappears a lot.
Yeah, I think like the sustain and like the front line with the Kelvin Shiv Viscous is going to be super oppressive. And so that's going to, and then you'll have the Grey Talon raining down extremely powerful like spirit damage from the back. So Abrahams have a really nasty comp already.
I think when I look at this too, is that I wasn't sure if they would pick both the Abraham, or rather the GT and the Viscous, but there's no reason why they can't work together on the same team. And hero pool wise, Abrahams can split it out in that way. So I think the Viscous pick here is also a denied pick to make sure that Buff Enjoyers couldn't come in and play it. Now for Buff Enjoyers, you're gonna have to put D-Mov on something that D-Mov isn't necessarily, maybe it would probably be the Paradox here. I'm not sure D-Mov was going to be the Paradox if they had the chance to pick the Viscous or the GT, but in this case, I think D-Mov just ends up on the Paradox and turn. Holiday, not dead yet, but now a lower priority with her early game power hit a bit.
Hayes is back in, Holiday locked in. Each team is going Gonna go with one more character selection. Quick shout out to some VIPs in the chat. We got Coppet hitting us with the Prime, one of the lead Face It admins. I told you we got the best of the best from around the world of esports. Drifter, a brand new character, can showcase what they can do potentially in the jungle, and Buff Enjoyers will be locking in their final player. Final shout out goes to my man Nimby. Back when we were getting DDoSed in some of the biggest esports events on the planet, we're getting taken down by douchebags from a basement. Nimby and crew set up Blackstar, a group that shut down all of those evil doers on the internet. And since then, you've been able to watch your broadcasts uninterrupted. Not only is it Drifter, though, it's Paige back to the games with DDK and ZP we go. Who won the draft, DDK?
I mean, I kind of feel like I like Abraham's lineup maybe more, but I don't know. I think partly it's because I don't know what to make of Paige just yet. I don't know that I've seen a great Paige performance, and so maybe Buff Enjoyers can convince me. But I feel like Abraham's got the edge here, CP.
Yeah, I like Abraham's comp a little bit more too, although the Drifter, kind of an X factor. I don't know what to think about Drifter and comp. I mean, we saw it get played once in the Challenger match. It didn't work out, but I'm not sure Lodos was the most comfortable with it. So, Abraham's doing perhaps a little bit of a gamble, but one that may pay off because I do enjoy the rest of their draft. And also, I think GT may just be that good, undefeated on the night.
As we jump into game number 2, shout out to Gray Morrow. We got Void V, Bubba, Skeptical, Ales Pick 26, and Jaws of the Void. We are now over 500 subs, 100 away from unlocking the new Mo skin, and halfway to Jake becoming a cat maid. Back to the casters.
All right, we're getting into it here, Dan, and to no one's surprise, take a look at the lanes here. What does Abraham's do but drop Holiday GT in mid? That is a scary lane by any stretch of the imagination, and sure, Holiday may be hitting a little bit less hard, and the barrels might not be knocking you up as much, but there's still a lot of power to spare in that lane, and already you see the poke coming in.
Yes, yeah, indeed. And one thing that we have to also mention is that Listic on that Yamato is on the left lane as well. And so we'll have to see who gets the edge off of these early range exchanges, but already good pressure and some decent chip damage coming onto the Guardian very early on, which is really what Listic was able to facilitate previously. And Listic's paired up with Paige. And so, this will be really, really scary actually, because I feel like the Yamato with the barrier, with Paige's barrier, is actually going to be very annoying.
Yes. I think Paige, from the lanes I've seen work out well with Paige, is that any hero that's naturally going to be getting more in your face really benefits from being with a Paige, because you just get to get beneficial HP trades. Like ideally you get barrier and you want to trade that barrier for real life. And heroes like Yamato or a Billy or an Abrams are heroes that work out well with that sort of life trade philosophy that Paige can bring to you in a lane.
Well, speaking of priority there, I think we're going to get a lot of priority in the right side lane from the Kelvin Shiv combo, the most classic combo that you can roll. And the thing is this combo is it's a lot of sustain. Shiv's very tanky. Kelvin provides a lot of chase down. You get the bleed damage from the daggers from Shiv, and suddenly you just have this combination where it's like they're very hard to kill. They got a really big damage output, and you can't get away.
Yeah, and I think given the general buffs that Shiv got, it wasn't the most massive, but it's still pretty substantial, I would say. So, I mean, the lane may be back in its ability to sort of push limits and get in your face. And you kind of look how Together and Saint are playing it right now on the map. They're about as close to that tower as you could get all of 3 minutes in. So already trying to bring back the old pressure of the Shiv Kelvin lane.
That tower's almost at 50% health at like the 245 mark. That's actually insane progress from Listic and Obi Kim. In the meantime, the mid tower here for Abrahams, it's taking a little damage, but it still feels like that Listic lane for Buff Enjoyers on the left is doing by far the best. And I suppose maybe the best competition it could have is the right side lane with the Shiv Kelvin combo, which is in the hands of Abrahams. So to me, ZP, hold the phone. The flying strike on in, and Listic delivers yet again.
Yamato moment, but equalized on the opposite side of the map by Together. Kelvin Shiv lane getting some work done. See if Drifter right now can go back in. Looking for the Page, low HP, just needs to land a few more claw shots. Gonna find it. But now, can you escape the dive from Listic right now? Listic looking healthy. Drifter, not so much. Jam side pretty low. But also, I have to say, we haven't really commented on it here, but Jamside on the Drifter is interesting. The Cube, though, giving a little bit of survivability. Listic goes down. Saf, right cube, right time. But I was going to say, Dan, is that Jamside style is usually one that's not super active. It is more, farm the entire game. Is that the style we're going to see at Drifter, where in theory you'd think Drifter would be a little bit more, active in the early to mid game?
Yeah, it's definitely... Well, hang on. We might have another situation here. Looks like the Kelvin and Shiv are going to be able to, deal with the Mo there and beat that bat, so never mind. And they've done some decent damage also to the tower on the other end of things as well for buff enjoyers. So, again, bar that little gang from the Drifter Viscous off the rope that took down Listic previously, they still managed to get a 445 tower, which is really quick still, ZP.
It's quick, but also I'm curious who's going to do the roaming here. But hold the phone. We got a Frozen Shelter right around the Guardian for a little bit of pressure here on the Sherrick. Sherrick looking low, able to dive down though, get a little bit of disruption and a scorn. And now, up in the air, we see the airdrop getting Sherrick back over in on the Guardian. The things you do to try and shake some pressure in what has been an unrelenting Shiv Kelvin lane. Sherrick still low on HP after all those shenanigans. Quick little wall jump into the emergency parry, but nowhere to go when it's all said and done.
And here we go. Still an impressive force here, the Shiv Kelvin. And it's looking really easy there. Nice execution coming off on to the Ivy. Zergy gets taken out. And Kelvin, Shiv still doing good work. But they haven't taken the tower down. But on the left side of the lane, we've got some very deep action from the Yamato Listic. Again, still causing problems here as they are super deep. Listic and Obi Kim. Got to be careful, though. I mean, there's no assistance. It's still a 2v2, but... Okay, Paige in a bit of trouble. Listic just... It's like, I'm fine, so everything's cool. I feel pretty bad for Obi Kim there.
Yeah, and... Again, the only thing about the lane and how it's up that I think is a little bit rough is that I don't know if there's a natural roamer between the Yamato and the Page once you win Guardian. I think you actually just get stuck in lane a little bit longer than, some of the other combos because you want your Yamato to just get as much farm as possible. And, I mean, maybe once else involved, you can do some stuff with Page, but it's not as, natural as, say, having the Holiday go and roam once you win lane.
All right, slicing dice, doing some damage. Some annoyance there from Zergy with those Kutsu bombs. And in fact, getting pretty aggressive there just for the moment before backing out. Just really trying to make sure that the Kelvin Shiv lane can't push that tower down too fast. Incoming Bird, though, is going to be extra pressure damage, which should allow these waves to keep crashing on the Abraham's tower. Or rather, sorry, the Buff Enjoyer's tower, as Abrahams keep pushing it.
Even though it's been a losing lane, I have to say that holding out against a Shiv Kelvin lane this long has still looked pretty good. Ooh, Killing Blow just out of the range of the execute. Sherrick still maybe going down the DOT damage. Looking really close either way. Still trying to defend tooth and nail. Frozen Shelter, though, comes on down. While he may be comboing in the freezer, it's not going to be enough in this instance. And surely this is going to be a moment that the Guardian finally falls, but... A good fight from Buff Enjoyers to make it last as long as it did.
Oh, he got stunned instantly before he could get to the zip. R.I.P. I mean, that's something that is really why the Kelvin Shiv can be so strong. You feel like you finally killed the Shiv, and then the shelter pops, and then you are just absolutely wrecked. So it really can throw off your sense of how the fight's going. And so there you go. There's somewhat of an equilibrium there then, ZP. If you've got... the Listic lane with the Yamato on the left doing really well. Shiv Kelvin lane doing well on the right side for Abraham. So feels like we're in somewhat of an even space with mid hotly contested still.
I think it's a little bit better than even right now for Abrahams. You take a look at who's getting the farm. I mean, look, in theory, Drifter should be a monster if he gets ahead of the game, and Jamside is looking like that here and now. ABL, though, caught out a little bit lacking by Hoot. Going to lead to some mid-guardian pressure for Buff Enjoyers where desperately they need anything to go their way. And I mean, clearing out mid does give them a little bit more room to exploit the map. So I think in terms of objective, progress, actually a slight edge to Buff Enjoyers now after getting middle. But we'll see what they're able to do for it, as Listic maybe deep diving a little bit, but no, not yet. Decides maybe not the hero to go in on in Drifter.
I see Holiday.
When we've got a potential opportunity here for some good damage. There's a Sleep Dagger. That's going to set up the fight. In comes Paradox. And it's an easy finish there for Who. Yeah, so Sinner's Sacrifice was, Steel was punished. And Who is going to be really key on this Haze. Plays a lot of Haze. A lot in pub games, so Who is definitely remarkable. And this has been a slow start though, and there's a combo coming on through. Shiv Kelvin, not really a fight you ever really want to take. These guys are inseparable. They're basically conjoined twins.
Yeah, and for good reason, where you get the frozen shelter out of Shiv, who's nearly about to fall together. Finds the killing blow once more on the Sherrick, where, you know, Sherrick falling a bit behind the game. I mean, Mo can be pretty tanky, but 6.2k versus 10k Shiv, you can be cut to ribbons relatively quickly. So this is kind of a problem where your combo just becomes a I guess we kill Mo now scenario. Not the best spot for Sherrick to be in. I think he's like 0-4 on the game right now so far.
Yeah, together. And I mean, Jam side, we haven't really talked about Drifter too much, but Drifter could end up being kind of a problem too. It feels like you really need to see Who and Listic be able to catch up a little bit. Zergy doing a good job getting farm, almost at 10k souls, which is somewhat comparable to some of the heavier hitters on Abraham's, but we will get collected here. That position 1 on the left side by Buff Enjoyers, but they do not currently have control of the right side lane where the deposit point is. And so the question is, are they going to just force Abraham's to rotate a little bit, threaten the drop-off, mess with the rotations, or do they commit?
We've lost me. But I think it may have been Dan. We'll give Dan a moment to recover. As Listic gets caught by Saf, and Abraham's continuing to have nice map control here. Even as Buff Enjoyers, we see them around with the Urn and the lasso. Gonna connect. Is Valthru gonna be there? Combo in onto the Holiday in turn. So TAS may have bit off a little bit more than they can chew.
Yeah, everything sounds fine on my end, I think. I think I'm here.
You're back.
Okay. All right, well, that drop-off is just certainly not going to be happening. Control still maintained on the right side lane for that Urn deposit. So at this point, he starts to get to that territory for Buff Enjoyers that you just need to force the fight or just drop the Urn at this point. You don't want to be wasting time. But the map control is crazy strong for Abraham's all across the map at the moment. Here's some Listic farm as well. The team fight might be brewing. Hoot's looking for something. Finds the Kelvin there, but where there's a Kelvin, there's a Shiv.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you used the conjoined twins analogy earlier, because when you look at the minimap of this game, it's pretty close to accurate. I mean, you could convince someone that doesn't play Deadlock that it was a two-headed hero that both players controlled at this point. But certainly, I mean, when you have the Kelvin for Urn fights, you know, Buff Enjoyers doesn't have anything obvious to immediately take things over. At a bare minimum, they're going to wait until they have Page ult up to make it a slightly more palatable fight. But I don't love the Urn options right now for Buff Enjoyers, and based on their hesitancy so far, Dan, I don't think they love it either.
Yeah, just kind of forcing Abraham to respect it positionally, but you have to be careful of the dives that can come through here. Kelvin does have the Frozen Shelter up, and that is the ultimate insurance policy for a diving Shiv. Still dancing around with the Urn at this point, whilst you've got Hoot on the Haze. It was in mid. It's being looked for by the Owl. Owl looks like it will miss. And getting some free damage onto the walker. In the meantime, Abraham's with all the controls, EP.
I love how the Owl, like the worst case scenario, just trolls someone's like, oh, you thought you were about to head out of base? You were done with the fountain? How about you go back into the fountain for another 3 or 4 seconds? Why not? But yeah, I mean, the map control from Abraham's has been pretty significant so far, especially the fact that, you know, as often mentioned here, the Shiv Kelvin lane has had absolute dominance wherever they go. And I mean, Abraham's just parked the Shiv Kelvin at the Urn turn-in, so Buff Enjoyers have had to reserve some of their gameplay resources here. They're having someone just babysitting the Urn, and it's given up some map control in turn. TAS, meanwhile, sees the opportunity. Magic Lasso connection on the Hoot, immediate fall through there, and could just lead to this mid Guardian falling, and does.
Yeah, nice little win there for Abraham's. Buff Enjoyers do have quite a few players still in the mid position. And it's collected, though, by Abrahams now, and they still have control of the drop-off point. So right now, Buff and Joyous have a hard decision to make. Do they try to challenge for this, or do they just give it up for free? And I don't think you ever want to give anything up for free at this level.
I don't think you want to give it up for free. They have all ults available, but it is still, I mean, you have to fight the Shiv Kelvin duo that is ahead on the game. Are they going to do it? They're sitting here. The Owls coming in from Abrahams, trying to set the tone. Meanwhile, you have Sherrick, who's looking for the combo. Instead, goes for the combo. Rescue beam, though, comes out in turn. And the combo down to the wayside. Urn still in progress, still being held here by Abrahams. As a Shiv Kelvin right now going for a bit of spacing, and it's more than enough space for Taz to get the turn in. We'll see what else develops in this fight, but Abrahams, they've already gotten what they need, Dan.
Yeah, managed to get in, get out, and now the question is, any opportunities here for Buff Enjoyers in the pursuit as we see the retreat, but they've been lured. It's a bait into the Kelvin's a frozen shelter here. This is where Shiv can do all of his work. Getting a little bit stuck, though. Kudzu bombs forcing them out of position. Nice addition to the roster here, these Kudzu bombs, and there comes the stun from the stone form, and that brilliant trackball aim with the gun Ivy coming on through as well. But we've got the 1v1 there. Drifter as well. He's going to find Hoots, and Hoots in a lot of trouble. You can't escape this. And that Walker's going to go down.
And this was a tactical decision being made in terms of splits for Abrahams, where they said, okay, we want to get the Walker and commit a little bit less to the Urn fight. They still get the Urn, they get the Walker, they lose out on some kills, but you look at the state of the game, you're actually completely okay with these decisions. I mean, the only downside is that you got so darn far ahead that Buff Enjoyers now gets a friendly side Urn, which probably will not be contested, but may be answered by a mid-boss take.
Yes, this is pretty bold, and with the Urn turn and happening, that's one of the reasons why there's confidence here for Abrahams to go in for this. They know that Buff and Joyce had to protect the Urn drop-off. And are they going to get here in time? They are coming, Buff and Joyce. Are they going to make a play for this?
Dan, are you with me? I stopped hearing you for a moment, but maybe you're back for me. I saw your light going up, so I didn't want to gaslight you anymore when apparently the problem was on me.
Oh, I wondered. I felt like everything was fine on my end. I just looked at the throw. I was like, oh, they're going to challenge this CP.
No, and I was just like, I can't hear Dan anymore. I must take over. But apparently I'm hearing you fine now. So we've recovered. But I'm not sure Buff Enjoyers is going to recover from this here, Dan. They've given up Rejuvenator, and you've had the two-headed monster. The Together Saint combo. Shiv Kelvin has been the star of the show so far for me, but also Jamside kind of looking a little bit scary on the Drifter.
Yeah, he's looking super scary. He actually has a gun buff right now as well, I believe, that was collected, so that's always going to make things even more painful. And Abrahams is so tanky with just like Shiv Kelvin take up so much space that it gives Drifter, it gives, your Talon so much room to work with to find good engagements and really just pump out the damage. Buff Enjoyers need a really good paradoxical swap isolation or a combo isolation pick off to get a fight started to have a chance here.
Hoot running for their very life here at the moment, 120 HP. Gonna take a little bit of refuge into the smoke bomb, but you still got ABL on the hunt. ABL though, looking low and turn the Owl out of the closet into the parry. Wait, it looked like a parry. Now off the other way. There's no way. Is ABL actually gonna escape here through the veil? I mean, this is a valiant effort, but it's just not enough. The HP, not enough to support the juke attempts. But while ABL was doing those acrobatics, look over here to the right. Just a rotation from Abrahams and Shiv leading the way. The Walker goes down. And I just kind of feel like Buff Enjoyers is continually getting bullied here, Dan, from this Abrahams front line.
Totally. Yeah, it's just that it seems like the Shiv Kelvin right now, the way they're playing, is really, really good. Love the right-click movement. Here you get all that extra velocity that you can then slide with. That's really, really fun to see, like Shiv movement.
Things are a bit rough for Buff Enjoyers here, where on paper it doesn't seem like they are that far behind, but in terms of objectives and also the pace of the game, and the fact that they're staring down the barrel of a 20k Shiv, where yeah, you got a 23k Ivy, but the win conditions for a full team fight kind of rough at the moment for Buff Enjoyers.
On the move. This is the perfect spot.
There he is over the top. Just air supremacy, aerial supremacy. And the pressure continues on this Walker now, forcing a response from Buff Enjoyers. They have to try to defend this. Oh, big damage coming on in, and with a nice bird finish, there is nothing that Zergy could have done there.
Dan, where did Zergy's HP go? Zergy was full HP, and a dash and a power shot later, that was one dead Ivy. That was an Ivy where if Zergy's supposed to carry the game, it's not going to happen with focus fire from Abrahams like that. Combo comes out, cube out in turn, and a frozen shelter. Obakim feeling awfully frozen out. Jam side able to find one on the outskirts, and the Walker HP just continues to get whittled away. Final Walker for Buff Enjoyers is gone.
And still oppressive forward movement here from the Shiv. Killing blow used, and they have just such an insane amount of sustain that's available. It's such a great balance of tankiness, healing, utility, damage in the backlines, and they're going to get out together here. Pick up that Walker, fall off, and very limited losses on the way out. And that's like really usually how Buff Enjoyers would want to get something back in this, is to punish the retreat, but they've only found the Viscous.
I mean, the best
All right,
here,
gentlemen, if we can just chime in from the chat, I'm seeing things like Kelvin ban incoming. This is definitely a game 3. Is it too early to call, or is it looking like the chat's right again, ZP?
if there's any team in the game I would never bet against for a comeback, it would be Buff Enjoyers, because they have by far the most comebacks in Deadlock history as a team. However, they got to find an answer for what has been a front line that has just simply ragdolled them across the map in every fight. Upside is economy-wise, they don't really seem to want to fight the earns on the Buff Enjoyer side. So in terms of raw souls, it's within reach, but Dan, the way it's been going in terms of the team fights has been anything but.
Yes, it is really not the best look at the moment. I mean, the soul difference isn't insane, but it's just this comp difference. The way that it's being played is so excellent from Buff Enjoyers, making their way forward though with the barrels here, trying to chase down Buff Enjoyers as they try to get out of this very desperate situation. This is not how you want to do it. There's a shield to keep Mo alive for now, but oh my god, the screeching sound of the bird is nightmarish. It searches for its target.
You know, Dan, here's what's striking me, the way these fights have been going down. This doesn't feel like a game where the soul difference is only 15k.
Yeah.
If you were just to look at these team fights and how they've transpired and how one-sided they've been in most cases, I would put the soul difference closer to 30 to 40k. The way Abrahams has been playing this comp, it's just continually forcing backwards movement out of Buff Enjoyers, and they haven't even had time really to set up things like good paradox picks, because they just got this guy together, who's on your screen right now, running at them in most of the fights. If it's not together running at them, it's Tass setting up the fight with an early Magic Lasso or a Spirit Lasso pick. Been infected by, you know, another caster. It's a Magic Lasso. Now, I want to call it Magic Lasso, even though it's Spirit Lasso, DDK.
It's a magic Spirit Lasso. Shout out to Twitch. We're over 2,000 viewers. YouTube keeps popping off. Reminder, if you're here for the first time, hit that join button, hit that sub button. Subs are 25% off on twitch.tv. DDK is bringing you play-by-play. Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, the chase now. Oh, nice catch as well, coming in from Taz there to isolate one of these players. But it's the entire team of Buff Enjoyers that are looking to potentially actually decide, you know what, that choke point doesn't look so good. And with the mid-boss now spawning, the next fight could end the game if Abrahams are on the worst side of it, as that mid-boss is the prize to the team that wins this next team fight. And there's an engagement. The cube comes on in from Sap to keep the protected player there alive for a bit longer. But Buff Enjoyers, they're going to go in his EP.
They're going on in, and is more of the same. The frozen shelter comes out, and we got Mo and Krill, Snazzy Duds and all, just getting chopped once more. And you look at the HP bars here. Abrahams has never looked healthier. Together has never looked buffer. More bad as the killing blows just continue to rain on in. And look at the HP here, Dan. Not even scuffed.
Yeah, they can actually even leave some players to just decimate the base whilst they also get mid-boss at the same time. That's the spot that they're in right now, which is actually so ideal. You couldn't really ask for a better position, and that's exactly what we're seeing here from Together. Straight in on top of those shrines as the rest of his teammates take down the mid-boss. He's got the Kelvin with him in the base to keep him protected, but obviously, as you guys can see, everybody is currently in a respawn mode.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I know like some of the animations are still a work in progress. What's going on with Drifter right now? Like this ice skating going on is actually unreal. I think I've never appreciated, since I haven't really seen much free cam of Drifter, just Drifter in an actual fighting him in my game situation. But Drifter says, I will reject the concept of friction, slide around and wave my hands in the air like I just don't care.
He definitely doesn't. He definitely doesn't. And it's, I think if this game is just one which it looks like that's what's going to happen, it's going to be the first time a Drifter's going to win a map in Night Shift, I think. So he's got a lot to be waving those hands about.
Well, it's going to be 1-1. We saw the first Drifter game earlier today. Didn't win, but right now, up 32k, 4 rejuve stacks. Everything is going the way of Abrahams, and they were winning these fights with ease when they were up only 15k, Dan. I'm not quite sure what Buff Enjoyers needs to do with this level of deficit. We're also, by the way, you run the Mo and Krill for picks, but can't say enough about how Saf's cubes have just really ruined Sherrick's day when Sherrick isn't getting thrown into the freezer.
Totally. Yeah. Boom, clear out some waves. All right, well, the deposit attempt is going to force a team fight. And we got the rejuice on board on deck here for Abrahams. So it's going to be a tough one for Buff Enjoyers. They'll see what they can do in this fight, though. Oh, actually, some good focus fire on the Shiv. That's that haze damage accruing. He's got to be really careful here. There's a Warpstone, and he's got his little buddy, the Kelvin. Obi Kim keeping him alive. 500 HP, there's that frozen shelter. Now you definitely can't kill the Shiv. Here is Listic though, just popping that shadow transformation, the ult to try to stay alive and just juking right now. Shiv, I don't know, still just somehow alive, just doesn't seem all that bothered by any of this.
Also, the problem is, even if you do kill Together there, he's on the Victor juice right now. Still has a rejuve charge, Dan. It's gonna get right back up. So it kind of shows how cursed this win condition is for Buff Enjoyers. I mean, what they would need to do would just, defy expectation. Abraham's, though, looking very good, only losing 1 rejuve charge in that entire battle. Buff Enjoyers nearly full cleaned out in turn. First stage patron going down. And with 2 rejuve charges still left, well, 1. We'll see if Abrahams decides to stay. Certainly still feeling like they have a game-winning advantage here, Dan. And they decide, go on in, unleash the Drifter. Let's finish this one out and go to a map 3.
There we go. Map 3 on the way between Abrahams and Buff Enjoyers, making sure that this one goes all the way for the money match here this week.
1-1. We're all knotted up here on the Night Shift. Number 5, presented by Intel. We got Abrahams and Buff Enjoyers fighting for the EU crown, and with 2 wins each, 2 shifts each. What a way to decide it all, as we will be going into a game 3. Before that, though, we got to take a look back at what we just witnessed, because game 1, 23 minutes. That's all it took. Game 2, Abraham is bouncing back. They do it in just under 27 minutes. DDK, what was the difference in game 2? Because you had a lot of familiar faces, some similar heroes, and I think this is the first ever time we've seen Drifter win a game on Night Shift.
Yeah, but I think it's all because of Together on the Shiv. Obviously, he's just played that. Having that Shiv Kelvin combo was really powerful. They used it to its maximum extent, got massive pressure off of it, got an early. Actually, the first tower went down for Buff Enjoyers with Listic, but the thing is that after that point, yes, you get the Oberkim and Together combo of Kelvin Shiv. They take their tower down and they move around the map as a duo, and any bit of pressure that they try to apply ends up being extremely successful. Whenever they were going for objectives, they were undeniable. You'd get shelters coming out like this to allow like really deep dives, and also to convert on way more damage than you would ever hope to see out of your opponent. So yeah, for me, it's all about the Kelvin Shiv.
ZP, as we take a look at some of these Shiv highlights, it was so fun to watch this character. What did you see from Together from the Abrahams? Can he keep this up, and do you think he'll get a chance to play Shiv going into a game 3?
I think he's back on his Shiv game, and that means Abrahams, if they can draft the Shiv, they're going to draft it. Look, this team literally went through like 2 months straight where they picked nothing but Shiv early in the draft and had a lot of success with it. Yeah, yes. I mean, this is Together's #1 all-time hero, and I think the buffs that came in the last patch have pushed him back over the edge again, at least if you get Saint backing him up, because it wasn't just a hero combo that you had between Shiv and Kelvin. I mean, this is a lane that Abrahams have run together a lot. Together and Saint have natural synergy if they can run these two together. And also, if I had to give another shout out to someone at Abrahams, I gotta give it up to Saf, who anytime Sherrick thought they were gonna get something done, got a combo in the right place at the right time, Saf was there with green gooey goodness to just ruin what our dapper mole was trying to set up.
Get cubed on, bro. Saf and the Viscous getting it done. Jam side was popping off when it comes to some of these objective numbers. Also very impressed with the gameplay on Drifter, the new character. But you said it was Together on the Shiv. Did he earn your MVP for game 2? And DDK, who's your favorite so far from both teams going into a game 3?
Oh yes, it's a tough one. I think it's so hard with these teams, but both of these teams were able to find places in the draft which yielded success for them. So in terms of my favorite going into the third map, I do feel like Buff Enjoyers could put Abrahams on their back a bit, because Abrahams just had success with this lineup, the Shiv Kelvin. That is easy to deny and to break up. So for me, I'm gonna edge Buff Enjoyers. I think they've also had lots of success with Listic, regardless of as to what's going on. I think that's a positive sign. So that's, yeah, I'm gonna lean Buff Enjoyers, but it's honestly so hard to call.
There's a conversation over on YouTube. Final one I want to have with you, ZP. Connor Gay says, am I the only one who thought Drifter would struggle in pro play with his isolation and everything? Clearly, I was wrong. And ND Norman says, ABL GT, Drifter against Yamato early lane, Shiv and Kelvin and Viscous, it's purely a perfect draft from the Abrahams. Did they win that one out of the gates based on comp alone?
I think the comp was very, very favorable to them, especially in the fact where they were. I don't think Buff Enjoyers actually may have expected Abrahams to go with both the GT and the Viscous at the same time. Again, I think it gave Sherrick like incredible matchup issues. Also, I think on some level, you do have to wonder, was the gun Ivy worth it? Zergy was actually quite ahead of the game at points, but it did not mesh well at all with what was going down for Abrahams, where there were multiple team fights where we would see Zergy be at full HP and then a Shiv dash and a power shot later, and that gargoyle was out of the fight like that. It was actually absurd, I think, the focus fire that Zergy endured and the non-factor that Ivy was as a result. So I don't know if the gun Ivy actually held up in this game.
I think you all owe our Drifter and the Abrahams a follow. If you haven't already, follow the channel as well. It's the best place for all the Deadlock action. This is shift number 5, and the night shift continues to clock in after this. Chicks did Deadlock. Wow, I can't even speak. It's a lie. DDK and ZP and all the bros here watching some video games tonight, and we've got some good ones on our hands. Once again, Abraham's going up against Buff Enjoyers, formerly known as Virtus Pro. So we've seen this fight before, but now they're playing for the best team in Fight Night Shift history. ZP, who do you give the edge to through 2 games? Who's looking stronger tonight?
Honestly, I think if Buff Enjoyers gives up the Shiv Kelvin again, it's going to go the way of Abrahams, but they're not going to give up the Shiv Kelvin again, because there's one element to that combo that you attack when it is giving you trouble, and you get rid of the Kelvin. You don't fear the Shiv anywhere near as much if he doesn't have Saint sitting there giving the most timely support of all time. So the adaptation we are going to see coming in here, I think it's going to be a first ban Kelvin, but it will potentially open up the possibility of seeing a Billy or Abrams in this next game.
I was the one in the chat who said ban Kelvin. I know nothing about Deadlock. I've only been here for 4 weeks, but I'm learning it quick, DDK, and I've been taught by some great ones from the EU. Let's find out who they want to play as we get into the next round of draft. Is there any character that you think is a must-have that you need to put on the field tonight?
Well, I think it's from what ZP's saying, I totally agree with him. I think, you know, there's going to be access potentially to a Billy, to a GT, to an Abrams. These seem like really top picks at the moment. So one of those is going to be available for a first pick, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see that. I don't think we're going to see the first pick of Mo, which we saw previously. I don't know if that's as worth.
Yeah, the Mo didn't seem to work out so good. Will we see a Mirage in the future? Is there going to be more Bebops like we saw in game number 1? ZP, predictions, because the buffs, the nerfs, they're definitely impacting our comps tonight.
They really are. And Abraham's, okay, so Buff Enjoyers decide they want to go second here. And I think that to me signals that they're going to first ban Kelvin, and they're going to look for pretty high value on the turn. Abraham's, the one piece that they're going to be able to get here is probably going to be either a Billy or an Abrams in turn. In this case, probably going to be the Abrams. So I'm expecting first pick Abrams for Abrahams here and a ban of Kelvin from Buff Enjoyers. I mean, Buff Enjoyers could also angle to pick the Shiv if Abrahams first picks a Kelvin in turn, but I just don't know if you actually want to mess with that at all when you can take out the Kelvin here when it was the number one thorn in their side in the last map.
It's been all Billy. I was going to say an Abrams, but instead Paradox is coming through. Buff Enjoyers taking out Paradox. Was he an issue in the previous game? I felt like he was on the Buff Enjoyer side, DDK.
Yeah, I mean, they picked him up because generally teams tend to prioritize him in the days when Holiday was banned, or in this case now Holiday's been nerfed. He's got the priority, and so this is how it all makes sense. They've picked the Kelvin, which kind of forces Buff Enjoyers into a spot where they kind of need to pick Shiv if they want to avoid the Kelvin Shiv, which is kind of like devious in a way. So I'm super curious how Buff Enjoyers are going to deal with this. They could just let the Kelvin Shiv happen.
Fax, who is our top Patreon as well as top donor in the chat, is asking, do VIPs get link perms? Chai, I don't know what this means, but I think we should hook them up. Thank you, Fax, for being in the chat. Thank you for everyone checking out Deadlock's EU Finals. We've got a Kelvin locked in. The Abrams comes through. Buff Enjoyers gets to double up after choosing to go second. ZP, who do they go with? Who do you pair it with?
They go with the GT, which has been the meta pick, but that means they give up the Abrahams or the Shiv Kelvin lane on the other side. It may not be as ugly to deal with because it's not gonna have the GT backing them up. And for Buff Enjoyers, you've secured, Listic's one and only Abrams, which is the comfort pick of comfort picks going all the way back to the beginning of Deadlock competition. So, I mean, Buff Enjoyers has gotten more things that they're comfortable with, but they're also leaving open the absolute disaster of dealing with the Kelvin Shiv once more. And now I'm curious, do you go with the Viscous here to just short things up, or do you go with the Mo and Krill to get the front line?
Take the stick.
Get the goo. Yeah, it's got to be the Viscous. That worked out so well.
We getting Viscous.
Oh, Pocket.
Trio that had
right.
the chat chatting.
Dude, Pocket's getting packet loss. Pocket loss is what we're getting.
Pocket loss? Well, it is a loss of Pocket when we can barely hear him. When he's just getting destroyed internet-wise. But I see his camera recovering. Maybe?
Stop downloading porn. Hello? Check.
He's back. I think he's back.
Yelling at my roommates. It's my wife,
but also
my daughter.
But
yeah, it's fine.
They've given up the Viscous and GT, so we've kind of reversed course here where Buff Enjoyers got key parts of what Abrahams had in the last game.
Yeah, this is looking kind of nice actually for Buff Enjoyers. I felt like the Viscous would have been a nice pick, but Pocket is obviously really, really strong. So we'll see how they decide to develop the rest of the roster around that. Okay, so Holiday is probably... I'm curious. Do Buff Enjoyers... Oh, well, Holiday's been banned. Okay, so both initiators have been banned. So we might see a Lash, but with a Kelvin out for Abrahams, that's obviously a nice way to deal with that potentially. So Abrahams could be in a good spot to pick that one up, and maybe Buff Enjoyers would think to deny it. But I feel like we might see a Lash here, because it's also good to deal with Talon too.
You might see a Bebop, but I'm not sure if you're going to see it from Buff Enjoyers, because if you think about hero pool wise, oftentimes if they play a Bebop, it would be Demov on it, but they've already shown their hand the Viscous, so probably not. So yeah, they're going to go with the Lash.
I saw Hoot was streaming him. Hoot was streaming him. It could be done. By the way, chat, I see you all. Sorry for crapping out. I'm going to let the casters take it over here until I get my internet sorted out. In the meantime, we are now 89 subs away from dropping the Mo and Krill. Yes, he's banned in this game. You won't see him on the map yet, but you could get the new skin as Bebop is locked in, as I thought, DDK. They're looking to just run the same comp they did in game 2.
Yeah, that Bebop coming out is I think like you're saying, ZP, especially in the fact that you don't get the Lash, pretty good potential option with the recent buffs, and obviously to deal with Grey Talon as well. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, showing up the front line for Abrahams makes sense, where you get the Yamato towards the very end. Also, a pick that could have been picked up by Buff Enjoyers, given that they still, maybe want another frontliner. This maybe is a game where they end up going with the Geist to shore things up at the very end. But Bebop for Abrahams makes sense. With Paradox and Holiday off the board, you're going to get something that Taz can play. But the Mina coming on in. Mina, of course, thought we'd see a little bit more of her based on the buffs. Still, I think, radically strong in lane, and gives Buff Enjoyers even more of an early game presence.
I think the Doorman's coming out. It's not happening. Sorry, chat.
Nope. Yeah, I kind of like Mina as well, just because she's really good at just like the ult is a really good tool to shut down the escape options for heroes like a Yamato or a Pocket. If they get in trouble, you drop the ult on them, they're just absolutely destroyed. And obviously, Pocket being weaker to spirit damage as well. Like it feels like a nice counter in some respects.
Helping people's what I do.
Ivy coming in at the very end.
All right.
Yeah.
Gun Ivy, of course, right?
Yeah, it's going to be Gun Ivy. Saint is on the Kelvin, and Saint, even the best of times, really has not been the biggest fan of support Ivy. So it's going to be Jamside on the Ivy in all likelihood. And when you put Jamside and Ivy together, catch them in the jungle until they're at 35k, and then they'll probably be in some fights. So that's how I see that one going down.
All right, it says that Abrahams are looking for hook into murder, DDK. I assume that's Bebop, who's got initiate, right? How does this work out? Ideal situation for Abraham's early game.
Yeah, that hook's available very frequently, and so you can always get a lot of picks with that and just throw out a lot of Hail Marys with it too to try to get that initial connection. You don't have like the lockdown combo that we saw where you get the hook into a combo from a Mo and Krill or something like that, but you have a lot of damage output regardless if that hero is going to come on through. So, however, I think there's going to be more escape opportunities if there are hooks, so it won't be quite as potent without the lockdown.
Is it listic on Abrams or Mina? Because he won while playing as Mina back in week 3, ZP.
I think it's got to be listic on Abrams. I mean, Buff Enjoyers, they do have the ability to switch around who's on the frontliners and how they're playing it. But in recent times, Buff Enjoyers has kind of gone back to the tried and true, and they've decided, actually, listic, you get to play the Abrams. How dare we ever take you off your most beloved? But we'll see. I mean, Buff Enjoyers, they are a team that can surprise you as to who is playing what. But I don't know if they're going to shift that one up here tonight.
And Demov is playing Paradox previously. I've also seen him win MVP awards on Viscous. Does he run the Viscous or the Great Talon? And if he's on Viscous, who runs Great Talon?
It's a good question.
Back to you, ZP.
GT is going to be Hoot, I think, in this case. Like, GT will be Hoot, Demov on the Viscous.
Makes sense.
It could go vice versa, but I kind of doubt it. I don't think Hoot has done as much on the Viscous, and we saw Hoot on GT earlier in the night. So
Chad is apparently telling me Zergy is going to play all 6 of the characters. It is fine. Buff Enjoyers are ready to take on Abrahams. This is our EU final. Some fantastic commentary from DDK and ZP. And if you're just tuning in for shift number 5, we've had some buffs and some nerfs as we wait for this game to kick off. Quick reminder, some characters just got stronger. Shiv is one of them. DDK said the Shiv Kelvin combo is what won Abrahams the game 2. They got it with their first and second pick. Are they favorites, DDK, going into this game 3?
Well, I'm actually going to leave you guys because I have to jump off. But Jake is going to take my place because he is significantly more handsome and will hopefully will have more viewers follow him. So that's good.
Shout out to Jake getting us over to 600 subs. We're on our way to 1,000 sub catsuit from the man who joins the broadcast live. Zambi is here celebrating already. Jake, they're ready for the catsuit. ZP, are you ready for this game 3?
I am ready, just as the chat is ready for the catsuit, Jake. And Jake, that's why we had to bring you on a little bit earlier here. It's just a little bit of catsuit marketing. Am I right?
Get the people hype. You know, you got to drop those. We need some big gifteds coming in, right? We need some heavy hitters coming in, some high rollers, swinging it around. But let's see how the Shiv Kelvin lane goes. I mean, I do think that is potentially a strong play for Abrahams. Overall, though, I think Buff Enjoyers used a lot in this draft, just denying picks. Like, I feel like this Lash pick was mostly a denial pick, and I feel like the draft they're left with does feel a little bit more awkward, where Abrahams, this looks very comfortable for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're able to stack the deck with what is objectively a pretty strong middle lane between the Yamato Bebop. Of course, dealing with Mina GT on the other end. I don't know. Between the two, the level of burst damage of GT Mina getting out of control actually feels a bit wild to me, Jake. Like, it's winnable on either side, but you do have to play against that lane with the utmost of caution.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I think it's up to the Bebop to land hooks, but if you get hooked in on either of those characters, I mean, even with some escape potential on something like a Mina, like, you know, in the early levels, you don't want to skill that juke, and even if you are getting away, like, Yamato's still going to be able to put damage on you and trade with you aggressively. So, I'm a little scared for GT in this lane. You just can't ever get hooked, it feels.
Also, you look at the right, we have our objective survive lane for Buff Enjoyers up against Shiv Kelvin, where given that the buffs on Kelvin or buffs on Shiv, Jake, they do seem to be significant enough that this lane is back to just being a full-on terror the way it was a few months ago.
Yeah, and I think the way that they play, they really understand that it's not just a laning combo, it continues to be effective deeper into the game too. And, someone like Lash potentially is going to have a pretty hard game here. Sharik, I think, has kind of been sacrificed at the altar of the draft here. Playing against this Kelvin is going to be tough. One good thing for players like Zergy and Sharik is there's not too many hard stuns on the comp for Abraham. It's pretty much just the Ivy Stomp with the statue. And so, I mean, expecting to see Kelvin by knockdown and things like that, but they might be able to get some of these big ults off, especially on the early levels before that knockdown comes up.
Things getting a little up close and personal here on the left side. Viscous Abrams applying quite a bit of pressure early on. So, another lane where things can get a little bit ugly. You get puddle punched into shoulder charge, and suddenly your time in the lane is over. You are immediately brought back to spawn. It's a lane that can be deceptively explosive, but I feel like that's half the lanes that Viscous can be a part of. It's just what he does, Jake.
Yeah, it's definitely a really difficult lane for Pocket in particular. Trade in the mid lane, though. Honestly, I'd call that nice for Buff Enjoyers. But Yamato did put a lot of damage down on GT, so maybe slightly Abraham's favored.
Meanwhile, looking at the timer on the right-hand side, I don't actually expect Buff Enjoyers to win the right lane, but I feel like if they stall it out and don't lose all that quickly, I almost feel like you count that as a win when you're up against this premium of a lane combo. You keep your expectations somewhat realistic.
Yeah, if you could stall it out, though, I'm worried. I mean, Seven's already really low. This not the best hero at recovering in the lanes, and Shiv went the same build last game, right? Just rushing the Mystic Shot. He has a pretty serious nuking threat, and it's going to be hard for Seven to walk up at any point in this lane. I mean, I think Lash can take a little bit more liberties, right, with the mobility potential. But man, look at Seven. He just can't trade with the Shiv.
It's tough, and you see it reflected in the hero HP, but it's soon going to be reflected in the Guardian HP if nothing changes. Middle, though. This is where Mina can get real aggressive with the rake. Comes on in, and you can go from mid HP to just dead. That is how explosive Mina can be, but the hook could be coming out with a little bit of damage at the end, and doesn't time the Sanguine retreat there, Jake.
Yeah, just a little bit too early on that one. Takes the bomb damage, but that's still a big kill onto Sav. I mean, I think shutting down this Yamato is a super high priority in mid lane, and we talked about the threat of the hooks, but it seems like, once you get ults online, I'd say, I start to favor this Buff Enjoyers lineup more. Sharik does go down in the side lane. Seven managed to heal up during that. But still, man, just the pressure is immense. Together keeps landing these knives onto Zergy, and every one is just so painful, right? Really punishing his ability to regen and stay effective in the lane.
Also, Jake, the lane's about to get so much scarier because ults are coming online, and that's where you really get the big synergy between a Shiv and a Kelvin. Just the ability to drop a frozen shelter, and Shiv gets to do whatever
Goodbye,
he wants. But the chase down, Taz gets in the back by an owl power shot, finishes it off at the end.
I like the Taz tried to turn, tried to, you know, throw a hook and maybe put some counter damage down there, was definitely dead to rights. Knock on the Lash, putting a little bit more damage on him, but I mean, Shiv is just doing whatever he wants in this lane. When you farm the enemy small camp right when it comes up there, that's a pretty bad sign for the enemy in this lane, that they're not able to keep control of even that crucial resource.
Yeah, particularly when it's a 7 in the lane too, and a 7 normally that's a 2-second affair. And you go, well, I don't want to have 2 seconds with Shiv having full access to me. That just sounds like a bad time. So, yeah, together gets a bit of dominance, as it were.
Pocket in real trouble in the side lane, though. Demov really leveraging that early strength. Abrams behind tower as well. So this is really the weakest lane for Abraham's, the one that you need to be winning as Buff Enjoyers. And they actually are doing just that, right? They are putting a ton of pressure on in this side lane. And so, I mean, we talked about the threat of the lanes being super deadly, but if you open this Guardian, if you allow Viscus or Abrams to start rotating and getting active, then I could really see a serious recovery here in the mid game for Buff Enjoyers.
And based on how Buff Enjoyers normally plays, it's going to be D-Mob that's going to be the active one. However, Listic 30 HP, a little bit of movement, not enough to get away. ABL chases that one down, and do you get the goo ball on top of it? A little bit harder to chase down D-Mob here, but taking the turn to the left, not a lot of options to escape at this point.
Yeah, Pocket should be able to get this go. Oh, the parry, is it enough? D-Mob somehow gets the counter kill, shuts it down, and oh, if he escapes, surely not, right? Okay, Ivy does get the counter kill. But Abrams is coming back. I'm not sure Ivy's getting out of this, yeah. Abrams knows. Oh, a juke from Ivy, though, and he didn't have pin up. Oh, maybe he thought he had it online. Coming up the zip, just had it down from the last respawn.
It was just 4 seconds of doom and enough to give Ivy a new lease on life. Shiv Kelvin right now, though, going for a little bit more dive. Parry into the Guardian, pressure into the 7. Death Slam, though, rotation, trying to slow this lane down a little bit, and they just walk it off, Jake. No one wants to chase after that.
They're so confident. They've been, both ults have been expended for Buff Enjoyers. They've done everything they can to try and delay this tower push, but now they have neither ultimate online, and they're up against both. So together and Saint, they just weathered the storm, continued pumping those heals and that tankiness. Abrams, though, is showing up to bring a 3v2. If they could shut down together, this would be a huge shift in the early game.
Well, the freezer of fun. Sherrick didn't really find it that way. Goes down immediately. Listic going over and in. Is this going to be the muscle they need? The takedown together. Again, low HP. The shelter's already gone 10 and down. Listic tilting the tables on the rotate here.
Yeah, it's still nice, and those expenditures of ultimates from Sharik and Zergi ended up still being enough to hold their tower. Now with Abrams rotating back, it's going to be a little bit more awkward for Shiv to continue to fight. That being said, I suspect Shiv is going to be able to just come back in and continue brawling in this lane. Even at 3v2, I feel like Shiv Kelvin are just going to keep trading, and you know, that's some of the strengths for Abrahams, that they're able to stay in. Look at this aggressive jump, dismounting the zip, continuing to harass on our tower. I mean, he knows there's potentially 3 players here. He's not scared.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should have a little bit of, you know, scared here. Neither ult is back up. There's no frozen shelter. And once more, Lash comes on in, makes it a 3-on-2, and together gets real low, goes on in, and gets taken down in turn. Not quite able to make it a trade onto Listic.
Yeah, just stacking stuns on him, right? He doesn't have any way to purge those off just yet. Definitely a debuff remover game for Shiv, if not also maybe a counterspell. Saint does kill Listic, though. That's a big trade to be finding on. I mean, remember, Abrams won his lane and started rotating, getting active. Demov has farmed a ton in this time, but I mean, the rotations I don't think have been nearly as dominant as you would have liked for Buff Enjoyers wanted to take that win in the side lane.
Mina versus Yamato, a little bit of sanguine back and forth, but flying strike over and in. Mina's frailness kind of getting exposed here. 50 HP and a Dream taking a little bit of cover behind the barrels, but not enough, Jake.
Yeah, the Shiv bleed. I mean, damned if he did, damned if he didn't. Shiv 100% dives tower there if you don't end up going down anyway. Catch is found here on the side lane. A couple parries here. Abrams struggling to get connections, but the Kelvin Dome, there's just not enough follow-up. It's just Kelvin trying to dance his way out of this. Saint, a lot of wall jump. See if he can slip away, but yeah, the tower here is still healthy, but maybe the dive proves a little scary. Yamato shows up to bail out the teammate.
Things still hot and heavy here in the right lane. 3 for Buff Enjoyers. Here and around. permanent residence, perhaps, for Sherrick right now, just trying to shore up what was a pretty rough lane by the matchup, turning into a 3-on-3 here in a moment. And, you know, Jake, the thing that's been interesting to me in this game is just the rotational differences here. You don't always see a side lane turn into this 3-on-3 brawl before the 10-minute mark, but it's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, and Abrahams has, I think, gotten the better of these trades, right? Like, even though Buffenjoyers is finding some kills here and there, Sharik has been really punished on a lot of these trades. He's died a ton on the Lash, so he's kind of going to be an old bot this game on Lash, which we talked about it in the draft. He's put in an impossible situation this game because against the Kelvin, I mean, and honestly, against Bebop, against Ivy, there's a lot of heroes that are really, I mean, Lash just is going to struggle this game. I just don't really see easy targets for him.
Oh, he's so dead.
Yeah, this guy's dead. I mean, look, the bats are in the air. Guy is as dead as anyone's ever been. And I don't know, unless he has some instant cast barrier, I just feel like he's going to die in like before he could cast a spell. Even if he cancels flight and instant stone forms, I don't see it. It's so fast to be dead.
Even if you do stone form, I mean, Obakim probably has Sanguine up in a lot of ways to chase down. Like, there's no way. Like 3, 2, away.
Okay, no.
Dead.
Yeah, you got the barrier there. Procced at the last second.
Big bag too. At the very end.
I do think Obakim needs to have a pretty big game here. I feel like getting some back. Obakim and D-Mob are kind of the saving grace here for Buffenjoyers. They are going to bring a ton of damage into these fights and maybe allow them to get some counter trades, especially in the early game before, you know, some of that nuking starts to fall off.
Chase down. Listic looking pretty low. Only upside, no flying strike up, but yeah, together just... You think you're good, Jake, and then you just see a Shiv come out of a dark alley. I mean, it's thematic. It's kind of where you'd expect to get cut up by Shiv, at the very least.
Another factor in this game I'm just thinking about now is it's pretty much all spirit damage out of Buffenjoyers. They're very, very heavy all in on spirit. And so I feel like there's a world here where Abraham's, you know, once you start getting like maybe a frenzy, maybe a spirit resilience up on the Shiv, I'm foreseeing issues in the late game because of that heavy emphasis on spirit. The itemization could be really strong here for Abraham, especially, you know, people like Yamato just have inherent spirit res, right, on the ultimate. You see he's even building a bit more of it on the side with that Ench barrier and the spirit shielding. So they really are able to itemize efficiently in the early game, and that's kind of contributed to this moderate lead that's formed.
Also, in terms of big gets, letting the enemy Yamato of all characters take your double vault sucks. Because you talk about the way Yamato uses the golden statue buffs, short of a character like Warden, I mean, she may use it better than Warden overall, just every stat being very, very effective on her. So, yeah, I mean, if Saf is just able to go around the map, which he is right now, grabbing vaults, it's not going to end well.
Big lash ult, big connection on 3, though. That's a huge find. The 7 stun falls up, and it just peel ult for now. Keeps Zergy alive, but I think without that, probably does die. I mean, that might be the biggest slash ult we see this game, to be honest, with how many tools that he has to worry about on the other side.
More inaccurate lash ult, not a selfish ult, I'm just trying to save my team ult coming on in.
Counter initiation is value.
Uh-oh, Listic going low, killing blow available, and just instantly shut on down. And I don't think there's going to be a punish for the Shiv here, backed up by the Yamato. I mean, 11k Shiv, 10k Yamato, you know, a frustrating front line for Buffenjoyers to deal with.
This Guardian's going down, but a big rotation here is coming in from Abraham. So yes, you open that Guardian up, very crucial for Buffenjoyers, but they're getting flanked. They're going to get caught in the team fight here. And yeah, Zergy sees, I don't know that there's a way out of this one. Trying to zip. Okay, wait, a quick dismount. Maybe there's a way.
Zergy's just feeling right now, Jake. It's 11k. It's too early for Zergy to get out of bed. Like, he's like, I'll fight when we get closer to 25, 30k. This is not, you know, part of the 7 mantra to get pressured this much this early.
Those are nice moves from Zergy, honestly. He's like dead to rights there. Just perfect dismount, perfect movement to slide out of that one. And that could have been real trouble, right? You really are always talking about how much Zergy farms. I mean, you're relying on him to get huge, right? To be that win condition deeper into the late game.
Let's go mid.
Abraham's working on a 6k lead at the moment, but also more importantly, looking to keep the two-headed Hydra of Shiv Kelvin together, where even into the mid and late game, Jake, they don't split up from each other all that often.
Yeah, I mean, Shiv's this hero that, right, in order to burst him, you kind of want to go all in with a ton of support and just commit everything on him, but Kelvin just inherently responds to that. Obakim, looks like that ult got juked, but Jamside ult caught in the silence. Couldn't get the stone form off, and Hello Bebop has escaped with the urn. That's a nice pickup. Remember, Jamside is, I mean, you're not necessarily reliant on the gun carry Ivy here in this particular game for Abrahams, but nonetheless, he is still their primary farming core.
Now rotating over, and this is what Abrahams was able to do last time around, where they have control of the urn and they're just going to leverage Shiv Kelvin to be the scariest front line ever. You know, objective is walk at them. However, Death Slam coming in from Sherrick on the rotation. Yuto gets caught into the backline. ABL just doing terrible damage with the pocket. Now looking for the Mina. A little bit of extra mobility. Up and around. Chases down Obakim and gets a 700 bag on top. That is a robbery from ABL.
Oh, Forsack's pocket is huge here. Saint does go down as well as together in the other side lane. So trades are pretty good. Seems like they're going slightly the way of Abrahams, though. Zergy needs to get out of this one. He's so low HP on the 7. They're trying to hunt past and get on top of him, but the pressure is on Ivy. She's doing everything just to evade and survive, but for the parry can slip. Now it seems like Abraham's on top of him and will get that finish.
Still turning into a brawl. Together is back over and in. The respawn times just aren't that long at this point in the game when you're deep in the enemy territory. So in the end, it is Abrahams who get the urn, should be able to get the turn in here, one would think. Certainly have the personnel over, so ABL gets a turn in. I still wonder how Saint and Together died there, where I think Together got split off in the middle of it, because neither used ult in the last part. At the very least, like, Kelvin didn't use ult. Shiv might have used ult, but Saint didn't use shelter at all there, Jake.
Yeah, it's surprising, you know, to get nuked before the shelter. There are a couple, I think I've seen like a silence somewhere. I'm sure Buff and Drawers are running some silences in this game particularly, like in order to burst people like Yamato, Calvin. There's a lot of these, you know, even Pocket, a lot of people who are somewhat vulnerable to the silences. So it's definitely something for Buff and Drawers to look at to get some of these mid-game pickoffs. Abraham's, of course, is going to start itemizing against that as the game progresses. As we're kind of reached that point, most people have the core items. Mina gets a big ult, lots of damage on this Shiv, should be dead on his screen already. Yeah, with that bloodletting. Big nuking follow-up. And we talked about Obakim's threat in a big game here. Owl catches maybe one more. Can Abrams get the follow-up?
Getting the motto would be huge. Safto still shout transformation in tow. Not something to be underestimated. Tash just flying by and jump scare off the hook. Just a little bit off this time around, not grabbing Mina. But now if you're Buff enjoyers, you kind of wonder, Jake, you get the pick off. What are you looking for in the map? And you know, ideally, it's just a little bit of jungle in this instance.
Yeah, the jungle's starting to run thin. I mean, there's not so much left to clear on the map. So I guess you're going to grab some Sinners on this Abraham side on the left. But seems like both teams relatively content to trade farm. I mean, slight advantage here for Abrahams, but I think they know a team like Buff and Dragons, you make some mistakes here and they're going to be right back in the game. Abrahams does have all 6 ultimates online, so if they wanted to go for maybe an aggressive challenge here, maybe look for the enemy doubles, they could, but Buff and Dragons hunting. They want to fight in the mid lane. Looks like Buff and Dragons is going to start to invade on this Yamato.
They're looking to invade, but do they know what they're going after? They're going after Yamato, Shiv, Kelvin. Quick burst damage on the Together. No frozen shelter. Frozen shelter dropped immediately in response, and we'll keep Together back at a reasonable HP. Buff and Drawers will see if they can still make it happen. Death Slam in from Sherrick over on the side. Buff and Drawers trying to work the outskirts, but Sherrick's nearly just down. Yeah, I think ABL got in there, dropped the affliction, and things are going from bad to worse for Buff and Drawers as the fight evolves.
Yeah, and continue pushing forward. Together's realize he's not going down in HP, continuing to walk up. The Bebop laser over the top from Taz creates space, and they're going to go straight down into the mid boss. More crucial, I think, than that pickup is the key ultimates that were deployed, right? You don't have to worry about the Owl, the Viscous Ball, the Abrams ult, and Lash won't be there for this contest. So Abraham's going to gamble that the Yamato ultimate is going to be enough. D-Mob looking for some cheeky value in the flank, but just gets picked off, gets instantly responded to. 7 Stun's going to hit on a few players, but there's just no follow-up. And although you're stalling a little bit for Buff and Drawers, isn't going to be enough. Yamato ulting in the side angle. Does get nuked down, though. The big pin from Listic was enough to get him out.
Listic coming on over. How's this going to go down? Stormcloud could be massive here. However, Rejuvenator 2 for Abrahams, 1 for Buff Enjoyers. Stormcloud, is the fall through going to be here towards the end? All Rejuvenators are already gone. It is a bloodbath on both sides. Both teams down 2. Neither teams with the Rejuve left here, Jake. And the contest from Buff Enjoyers pretty good given the circumstances.
Zergy
Yeah,
won that, right?
Nice value from Zergy and Obakim, right? Huge AoE damage with those ultimates on the grouped up players trying to get the last hit. But I think even more important was Listic picking off Saf before the fight even started, right? You were relying on Yamato to be the one to just rip the ult, get those rejuve secures, be able to fight through everything. But they nuke him down, and then when he does pop up, he just has 1 HP left. They instantly finish him off. So the kill onto Saf before the fight really began was crucial. ABL gets parried, trying to get that Spirit Snatch hit off, but knocked under the low ground. Seems like he will escape.
Sometimes muscle memory can be your worst enemy. ABL on the dive, but Hoot was ready. Gets the parry, gets himself out of the danger zone where, you know, if you notice on the minimap, ABL has really been testing Hoot. Anytime that Hoot is around in a lane solo, it seems to be ABL's favorite target to harass at this point, Jake.
Yeah, Pocket has really bad spirit resist. Like, I think the natural spirit resist is negative, so you really want to be nuking him any chance you get on GT, right? Get his HP low so that he does die in that like 1 stun combo, 1 silence combo when you catch him a little bit later. So it's definitely a good target for Hoot. Fighting those parries will be key, but I mean, ABL's getting a pretty solid net worth lead, so that matchup is not going to be a fair fight in the next few minutes if they continue to take it. I think ABL is going to be a really key player to watch. Like, a huge affliction is a problem for buff enjoyers.
I mean, one of the main reasons why Pocket does get a lot of the draft value that he does is the team fight value on top of the skirmishing. Now, a little bit of pressure here on the Obakim. Obakim getting assaulted from all angles. I mean, you're a little bit slippery as a Mina, but there are limits to that escape power, Jake, and they're being tested now as Obakim just goes for the hide here through the veil, and that maneuver may have saved Obakim's life.
Yeah, Together gets healed up. Seems like both teams going to lick their wounds and just take the reset. But the nuke onto ABL, they do catch him down in the side lane. Counter move though from Abraham's, getting on top, trying to catch this Lash. Looks like the Majestic Leap though is getting him out of trouble. He wants a little bit of this fight, but there's quite a few players here. See if the catch from Abrams is good. Stone form forced out of Saf, and he has the pin. Just follow up here.
See the chase down. Warpstone used a little bit off target, and once more it is Jamside running for their life, and the Nox Nostra, the last little bats, enough to take it down. But while this has been going on here, Jake, Abrahams, they do get urn control. We'll see how they set things up here as Shiv Kelvin maybe looking to pick up the scraps and defend this right walker.
Yeah, this is a key fight. Lash looking to get in over the top with the ultimate. Does find 2. Big connection. Shiv Kelvin, they do have ultimates online. Those aren't easy kills. You can see Abrahams, they just shrug off that initial damage. Saf is here fighting as well. And Buffalo Jars using their mobility to escape, but it's not quite enough. ABL catches up, nukes down Obakim. They're looking for more.
Zergy right now is looking for an urn intercept too. Off over, checking Tass in turn. Doesn't want Tass to get the free run over. Tass sees Zergy, Zergy sees Tass, and Zergy now, though, gonna break away over the mid, and you got the clean break for Tass, whether they realize it or not. They could just turn this urn in, Jake. And I think they're very well aware of what they got.
Yeah, he's got a nice patience. Decay thrown. Looks like a fight's being attempted. Zergy committing in heavy, but beautiful rescue beam from Kelvin here up onto the roof. I just don't see any follow-up here. Lash doesn't have ultimate. Great Talon Bird does come in, but you just don't have the finish. And look, yeah, Together knows it too. He's coming right back into the engagement. Looking for a potential execute here. Players starting to get low.
Lands
Couple
knife.
vulnerable ones who can't really chance this.
Lands a knife and the dash. Would really love a frozen shelter. Gets it. They waited to the last moment and realized, okay, we can do this. They do. A little bit of step into the Spirit Snare. Decent HP. Down goes Sherrick. And now Abrahams, they're just able to move forward. Get additional pressure here onto the mid walker. Be the first walker of the game. And honestly, Jake, at this point, they need the item slots.
Yeah, and Saf is playing full confidence here on the off angle, pushing people back. Buffenjar's players so low, right? They've done so well in these scraps, using their high burst damage heroes, but the front line a little bit weak, and now starting to buckle under the pressure. And Taz gunning down this tower, a knockdown as well on Bebop, so you can expect to see probably quite a few knockdowns in this game for Abrahams. And just like the items are starting to add up, the team fights starting to look more and more inevitable with Together just seeming unkillable with Kelvin behind him.
And this was the risk of not first banning Kelvin. I mean, when we went into the draft, Jake, I truly thought Buffenjors would open with ban Kelvin because it really limits the effectiveness of Shiv if Together wanted to play it.
Oh, who dying is so bad here.
Ooh, yeah, getting chased down. I mean, it just adds on to the pain. But yeah, I don't know. The bans here, I think, were a little bit questionable. I think they first banned Paradox instead, and you know, Buffenjors came in and said we can beat the Shiv Kelvin. But the way this game has gone, Jake, I'm not sure they can.
Yeah, we're reaching that point where you got to start questioning it, especially with Yamato on top of it. And Saint has Refresher online. What a bit!
Oh,
but
no
a huge
way!
hook. Oh no! Okay, around the corner can't be pulled. That's so lucky. Losing Listic there would have almost certainly cost a few walkers. Mid walker is an interesting scenario here, right? The Abrahams have taken the mid walker, but not the two side walkers, and so definitely going to see a lot of split map pressure as Dimov cleans off the enemy side walker. So 2-to-1 walker advantage at least, playing in Buff and Jor's favor.
Jake, Zergy's getting kind of fat.
I was going to say, chat is saying Zergy late game, no worries. This is all Buff enjoyers. Where does he get too fat? Like, how long can you let this game go if you're Abrahams?
I think it'll be interesting to see how the battle goes. I actually think you're kind of okay with this on Abrahams because Ivy has kind of monstrous single target DPS in terms of just like hard shooting the 7. The key is going to be locking him down. So I think once he, Zergy has the space to build something a little bit tankier, like an E-Shift or an Unstoppable, maybe I feel a little bit better. But right now, he's kind of all damage. If he's not doing damage, if he's getting stunned or controlled, then the Leech and the Boundless aren't going to be doing too much for him. So definitely interested to see what he buys here. Does he go for escalating or does he, go a little bit safer? Yeah, it's going to be the E-Shift. So maybe he can survive in something like the Kelvin Dome, can outlast maybe the Yamato ulti. But the last few fights have been really positive for Abrahams. And with mid-boss coming up soon, I expect that to be the next key point of contention. Are they timing the spawn is about to come up right now?
They have to.
Yeah,
be.
they must be, yeah.
I think this is smart. I mean, Sherrick's not going to be there in time for the fight. There's not going to be the death slam. And if Buff and Joyers go in, they're still going to be going into the Shiv Gun. Okay.
It's a good fake, though. I think they're coming for the fight. Knockdown's being triggered on the high ground. Hoot's here, but hey, there's no one to shoot. Buff and Joyers getting juked in this fight. Abraham's looking to get the chase down on the high ground. The frozen shelter completely isolates Ivy. She's the great talent is trapped in the corner. And Demon's down.
He just got completely worked by the outside of the freezer, completely unintentionally. However, the isolate doesn't immediately result in elimination, but now it does. Listic caught towards the end. 2 of Buff and Joyers down. The fake paying dividends. The chase down now in progress. And Obakim not going to be long here. Taken down at the end together. Getting into his groove here on the Shiv. 3 down for Buff and Joyers. And if you're Abraham's, Jake, you just go right back to mid.
Yeah, mid boss is going to go down very easy. Still a bit of map control, a bit of walkers. I think Buff and Joyers has to attempt this. And look at this, Abraham's reading this as well. They're ready immediately for the counter engage. Together here, continuing to control that high ground. Does take a lot of damage. They're low HP. They're trying to think about, I mean, it's actually really nice that Buff and Joyers are able to harass a little bit and escape there because a lot of low players on Abraham's. I think there is a window to maybe get in for a challenge here.
The owl.
But the margin is so tiny here for either team, right? Buff and Joyers trying to pull aggro and stall as much as they can, whereas Abrahams would love to drop the reju, but they're kind of low on a lot of players. They've got to be worried about this GT bird.
This GT bird could outright kill half of Abraham's right now, or at least 2 players, and where it's at. So, along with the poke coming in for the power shot, so who doing God's work and just delaying things out. Sherrick up over the top. Anvil gonna ruin his day, ruin his idea of going for the death slam. Now having to take cover underneath. Not the greatest spot for a Lash to be in, but time has been bought here, Jake. Buff and Joyers, they're back up to full strength, and now they want to finish the mid boss.
They're going to go for it, taking the gamble here. Yamato forced to use ulti by that Lash ult, so they got some value in that GT trap on the pits. Going to give the advantage in last hitting to the Buff and Joyers squad. 1 rejuve goes Buff and Joyers. The rest on the field going 2 for 2 now, but 2 Buff and Joyers players have already lost their lives. It's a knockdown drag out in the pit here with Zergy, big ulti over the top, but immediately canceled. He's not able to get that big value, and Abraham's up 5 versus 3. This could be the game, ZP.
Yeah, 3 down and no frozen shelter, no problem. Abraham still looking reasonably healthy. Jamside may have had the run, but together doesn't know the meaning of running. Ford cuts down Zergy, and once more the Shiv is free to play. Buff and Joyers down 4. I will say though, Jake, still within range in terms of souls. They may get the urn on top of this, or at least urn control. And they make sure that Abrahams doesn't have the rejuve at the very least for this push. So things could be worse for Buff and Joyers, all things considered.
Oh, nice spell parry there from who blocks some of the damage from Pocket. I think that could have potentially nuked him if he doesn't find that counter spell. And a lot of the Abrahams players are kind of bruised from that fight, especially with Hoot continuing to spam power shots from the fountain. And Abrahams aren't going to be able to get those mid guardians they were hoping for. They get one side walker, which is pretty nice. Buff Enjoyers, though, have done a great job stemming the bleeding from some very difficult fights. However, you got to remember that previous fight was with 0 frozen shelters, right? Or there was the big fight with double frozen shelter, and now that's going to be the key tempo for Abraham. So when they have the double frozen shelter, I don't know how you play for Buff Enjoyers. It's so hard to get isolated for that incredible duration of time. So maybe we could check Saint, see what the cooldown is on Refresher. I think that'll be probably the trigger that makes Abrahams look for maybe a game end or maybe a walker take. If Saint has that Refresher online, it's just so challenging to try to continue an engagement as Buff Enjoyers.
Also, the way the draft went, there were games in the past where Buff Enjoyers was able to use things like a holiday to isolate Saint and get rid of the frozen shelter before it began, but you don't really have a ton of very reliable pick opportunities here, like maybe a death slam from Sherrick, but that's a lot less reliable than Holiday rolling up and spirit lassoing you to your demise. So the idea of taking down Saint early in these fights before the shelter can enable Together to be a monster of monsters, it's not easy.
And Jamside's not into this fight. He could fly over if he wants to, but there'll be a moment here for Buff Enjoyers. Taz, this wall jumping, looking for any hooks. Such a huge threat on the Bebop. Has Toxic as well. Abrams in a bit of trouble. Tried to stay a little bit longer. Nox Nostra dodges the knockdown, though, and a couple big kills. Abrams down 2 players. Buff Enjoyers looking for maybe a team wipe right now.
Massive Nox Nostra from Obakim. Did tons of damage. Silenced people. Stopped them from getting their abilities off. Shiv, Kelvin, they're both dead. No frozen shelter was used. The initiate for Buff Enjoyers, just tremendous here, Jake. Gets them right back in the game. 185k to 190k. That was the breath of life that Buff Enjoyers needed to keep this one close.
Gotta tell you, Obakim is just doing God's work right now on the Mina. So many times this game, it's been his silences with Nox Nostra that have led to these early pickups that have turned team fights around. And now, against all odds, despite being really unable to team fight and take some of these big ulti challenges, they've been just finding the pickups that have put this game right back on even footing. And in theory, this is probably a little bit favored for Buff Enjoyers right now. I still think Abrahams have monstrous team fighting, and at some point, once they get, whether it's the debuff removers or Unstoppable, something to deal with these silences, just get these Kelvin domes off, there's gonna be problems for Buff Enjoyers, but maybe they can win before that happens. Maybe they can continue to find these burst pickoffs.
I mean, this is a big swing. They get Walker, they get Earn on top of it. They're just waiting. Earn goes in, and yeah, I mean,
feeding ability points to Mina here, so she gets like more. Because like I thought, did someone else bring their Earn to that 99% of the tournament? I'm confused. I was dropped there.
I didn't see closely on that. I mean, it's possible, but
Spirit Burn is a nice find. I mean, this Mina does crazy damage. I almost feel like, yeah, Max Nox Nostra. I wonder how buffed that is, right, from his love bites over the game. I feel like Obakim kind of needs to be the hero right here. Zergy is also, I mean, ridiculously huge now, 43k. Listic grabs Spellbreaker. When I see them all, the full lineup of Enjoyers, I think they can absolutely win this game. I'm just wondering, like, if you get Kelvin Dome isolated, how do you ever not start the fight down 1 or down 2 players? If somebody gets Kelvin Dome 2 times in a row with like a bunch of Abraham's players, I feel like they could play from a pretty significant net worth deficit and still look good in the team fight. However, Saint's gonna get hard focused. Maybe he won't be able to get those off.
I mean, ideally, you do kill Saint early, and immediately, Tass just evaporated. Hoot with the burst damage, and here comes Zergy, Stormcloud over the top onto the Wounded Mare's Abrahams. The frozen shelter is out, but Together, super low. Not enough to save him this time. Not off that opening. Not with the burst from Hoot, and with 3 down from Abrahams. Buff Enjoyers, they get to move forward here, Jake.
Yeah, Zergy's taking control of the game now. I mean, now once you can win the fight in the Kelvin Dome, you're still finding these pickoffs, right, with the Phantom Strike from Listic. And now Abrahams has really been on the back foot for quite a few fights. They went from being in a commanding position, looking to take base guardians, potentially threaten the end of the game, but Buff Enjoyers was just so clean, dancing with the enemy around the mid boss, right, delaying that take that really Abrahams just never got that critical mass to try and close out the game. Buff Enjoyers going to go back shop, but go ahead.
Look at the timers right now. Mid boss is up in 20 seconds. If Buff Enjoyers realizes this, they actually have a window to burst down mid boss before Together and Saint can really get to the middle. I don't think they realize the window that they have here.
Are they ready for it? If he goes down right now, yeah, I think they are timing it. They're timing it. At this level,
they can burn it with Nox.
Timing it. He's going to instant Nox Nostra on this, 3 seconds, and I think it will just be dead before anyone can contest. And now you're kind of looking for Abrahams at a patron defense, right? You might be giving up first layer patron, trying to just make a clutch hold. This could very easily be Buff Enjoyers taking the series.
Also, that is the ridiculous power of Mina when you're farmed into the late game. The ability to just annihilate the mid boss faster than I think anything else in the game pays off, because they only had a short window to get that done, Jake, without Together and Saint coming in the contest. But that's the power of Mina in this situation.
Yeah, man, Mina is a serious problem right now, and Abraham's, I mean, they are a little bit stun light in the draft. I talked about, okay, maybe the items can resolve that, but something like knockdown, right, with Mina being able to dodge those, not nearly as effective. I wonder if they need curses or something of that nature to really catch and lock down these players. But now you're starting to worry about, there's just a lot of different problems in the game now you're trying to deal with. Hoot being in huge damage from range. I mean, D-Mob is 41k. D-Mob does pretty serious damage in these fights. Maybe we take a look at the D-Mob build. I think he's full statted, man. If he's got like Phantom Strike, Warp Stone, he presents a huge problem looking for stuns in those fights.
It's also more disruption that could just interrupt Saint before things go down. But I don't think Saint has gotten souls in the last 8 minutes, Jake. That is where Abraham's has just been stalled out on economy. And now pressure coming into the shrines. Sap looking for the interruption. Here comes Nox Nostra over the top.
It's not the
bat
best.
Still piling out, and yeah, I mean, not the highest value, but still enough to find ABL. The threat of the pocket is gone. The affliction was dropped, but Buffenjoy is still looking mostly okay. Frozen Shelter gonna be dropped here.
Oh, Zergy inside the shelter. Death to my enemies. He's killing them all. There's no stuns for the 7-ult. They're out of gas. This is it, man. This is game. Buffenjoyers holding the defense for so long. And a signature comeback maybe on the cards right here, ZP. 45 seconds. This one's done. Buffenjoy's the champs. Oh, man. Is that a manner pause?
That was a manner pause. I think Buffenjoy felt a grudge. I think they thought...
I will say Abraham's also paused at a pivotal moment around the mid-boss. Hook into the
lag. So good. I don't think they like the pause at mid-boss. Wait.
Bad blood.
Okay.
You guys, bad blood is being formed between these teams right now. Buffenjoyers take the win, and it is a salty one. Abraham's gonna be licking their wounds, gonna be looking for revenge next. You better believe it. But it's Buffenjoyers, our champion, in Night Shift number 5, presented by Intel.
Yikes, ZP! I came in thinking this was all Abraham's. Chat said, look out for Zergy late game, and who is it sealing the deal? Mr. Zerg on the trackball. Wasn't just him, though. Obi with a phenomenal performance on the Mina. I heard you talking about that over and over again for the noobs out here who didn't know about Obi and the Mina and the potential for a late game snowball. How does she work? Why was she so impactful, ZP?
Well, I think it comes down to the fact that Nox Nostra is this unique combination of silencing abilities and heavy burst damage. And you got to think back to that fight that happened in middle, in the right lane, where it was just the right place, right time for Buffenjoyers. Obikim lands the best Nox Nostra of his life, sets up for 2 pickoffs before the Together, Saints combo can really get going. And off that team fight, I mean, everything goes well for Buffenjoyers from there on out. They get a walker, they get Urn, they catch up in souls, and they continue to get these early engagements that don't let Abrahams hit their win condition of Shiv and Kelvin just setting the tone. And none of that would have been possible without Obikim having repeated very good Nox Nostra uses.
Jake, there's a few people in the YouTube chat who are a little shamed because they said as soon as they saw that Together got Shiv again and that Saint was on the Kelvin, that this was Abraham's game. They were up pretty big in the middle of this one. Seemed they had everything going their way. Was it a Shiv like character fall off, or just the Buffenjoyers winning some crucial team fights?
I feel like Buffenjoyers played some of these really difficult scenarios just picture perfect, right? Think of that moment when I think Abraham's uses the double dome, right? The double frozen shelter from Kelvin. They get a couple pickoffs and they look to convert on mid, but they can't convert on mid because 3 standing players from Buffenjoyers just keep poking from different angles, threatening them on the mid boss without being caught, right? And repeatedly, Abraham's gets off the mid boss, looks for catches, and they just can't find any of those 3 players. I think it was Zergy, Hoot, and maybe D-Mob. I can't remember who the third was, but they stayed alive. They prevented some of those mid boss takes, and that key power spike for Abraham's at the mid game when they're supposed to be getting rejuves, getting decisive team fight victories, and just ending the game, they weren't able to get it over the line because Buffenjoyers were just so nimble, so evasive, you couldn't close out on the victories you were earning on the team fight.
$1,000 matchup, and it is going to Buff Enjoyers, their third championship here in the 5 weeks of our night shift activity. And as we take a look back at some of the best moments from both sides, ABL get in the pocket. You saw Saint on the Kelvin, and then of course together on the Shiv. Players to watch early on the other side. Who is doing work for Buff Enjoyers, Mr. ZP?
I think the unsung hero at points, in part because there wasn't a lot of flashy owls, but I think the glue that kept them in the game, even more so than the Nox Nostras towards the middle and end, was probably Hoot, where so many times Abrahams could have run away with it, but Hoot was just an absolute menace, landing power shot after power shot, whittling down the health of Abrahams to make it so that they couldn't come in and easily run away with the game. And that's the power of GT's poke, and of course Zergy, as you got into the late game, the looming threat, the 7 that eats the jungle and eventually eats you should the game go on too long. 45k souls at the end kind of says it all.
And yes, Hoot's parents did name him knowing he would be a future Great Talon superhero. Let's take a look here at the finisher from Zergy. I'm told we have our MVP selected. This is a big question for me. Who do you go with? There's so many pop-off players, both sides. Of course, Buff Enjoyers probably going to earn the MVP award because they won it all. Jake, who did you put your award to as we get another 10 gifted from my man 99 Lives? We're closing in on that Mo skin release.
A series like this, I feel like it's always hard to call MVP because so many players across different games have different sorts of contributions. You take a player like Sharik, who kind of got drafted this game in the draft, right? I think Lash is a pretty rough Lash game from my perspective looking at the draft, but he still made it work, didn't overplay it. It was nice. So there's a lot of players to praise, but in the end, we got to give the MVP to one single person. Let's see if we've got it ready. We can roll it. It is Obicam.
Game on.
I felt like in this game in particular, right, they were falling behind at so many moments, especially in the early game. And it was Obicam playing. I mean, typically this guy's on quote unquote support, right? Comes out on more of like a nuker harassment carry and has a huge game with big pickoffs at crucial moments, right? Stats wise is not going to blow you away, not going to be super impressive, but I don't think Zergy gets to this point in the late game where he's able to take over without the playmaking from Obicam in the mid game. That was when Abrahams were strong. That was when Abrahams were supposed to be able to win the game.
Right.
And a couple of those big team fights came out of Obicam to really turn the momentum around and keep Buff Enjoyers alive in the series.
Chat is demanding that we already nerf Obicam, or at least Mina. Let's take a look here at some of the best moments in Z Pizzle. Talk to me about Mina, because she got improved coming into tonight's matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Mina, the devs looked at her win rate and saw, wow, people really love this character, but wow, is that win rate bad? And she got pretty big buffs across the board. Nox Nostra got a lower cooldown, her scaling got way better, and Love Bites takes one less shot overall the trigger. The end result is that she's way more damaging, way more bursty, and has the good stuff up way more often. Also gets more healing off her rake on top of it. So yeah, Mina is just a much bigger threat. And the question was, how would it show up at the highest level of competition, which is what we have in Deadlock Night Shift? And the answer is, showed up real well in the clutch here for Buff Enjoyers and saved them from what seemed to be an all too certain demise from a Fed Shiv Kelvin. So yeah, Mina proving her worth, proving how she has been an effective addition to the game, and Obicam really did play it to the perfection as we went from the mid game into the late game.
Drifter got a win tonight. You just saw Mina get a win. The new character's getting a lot of use, and Billy even won some MVP awards. Mina, our MVP tonight for EU as they get the job done. Jake, I want to ask you a little bit about the rivalry that we are seeing here in Europe. You mentioned it. There was some BM pauses, some back and forth communication between the players. Is this something that's usual, normal? How do I get those guys to lose their mind even more if I'm Buff Enjoyers?
Oh, you know, there's some memes going on there, some banter for sure. I mean, look, you had to, like, for Abrahams, maybe they had some bugs in the mid game where they did pause for a bug. It wasn't a super crucial moment, right? So it's a bug, it's lag, whatever. And I kind of believe him in that case. However, you're going to be a little salty about that. In the moment as Buff Enjoyers, you're going to be like, how can you pause at this moment? Your up players were harassing you from different sides in the mid boss, where the pause gives you a moment to talk about, oh, are we going to go on this guy? Are we going to finish? Like, what are we going to do? It actually is really meaningful to pause there. And so I think Buff Enjoyers, even if that is a legit pause, they're going to be salty about it. And you know what? I judge this, I rule this as arbiter of bad manners. I rule this as acceptable counter BM from Buff Enjoyers, because the game was over when they started BM pausing. So it was a little toxic, but you know what? I'll accept it this time.
Here on the night shift, we have no rules. Do what you want, gamers. We're here to play. Congratulations, $1,000 dished out to Buff Enjoyers. Abrahams, though, for their hard work, will earn $0, but they did catch a few subs. So thank you to all the gifted subs, 99 lives, dropping a few on our heads. Fax hooked me up with my personal sub, and ZP. For all those who didn't know, we do this every week. So if you like the content and you hate ads, it's a great time to sub, because it's up to 30% off over on twitch.tv.
Yeah, great time to sub. And also, going there also could get the most skin out a little bit faster. It's coming out at the end of the night, no matter what. But hey, if you want it right now, you know, just a few subs away, and you too can be the most dapper Mo around. And, you know, yeah, all in all, ridiculous game. And by the way, yet another Buff Enjoyers comeback. They are the comeback kings of Deadlock.
Yes.
No other team comes remotely close to the amount of comebacks that they have engineered over time.
Okay, question on that. Does that mean that they are the best team late game, or that they are the best game at pivotal moments of flipping the script? Because as you mentioned, they've won 3 times. I feel like 2 of them were comeback wins, Jake, where they were down at least in a game 1 in the series.
I mean, to me, this game 3 was really a story about continuing to fight against a huge power spike in the mid game, where I thought this game was wrapped up. I thought Abrahams had just, like, the refresher on Kelvin. I just thought, okay, look, how do you fight anymore? Like, anyone who goes in Listic, how do you play the game? You're just going to get instant domed and 1v5'd as Abrams. You just can't fight. But somehow, whether it's building the silence waves, fighting Phantom Strike pickoffs, they're able to start playing around it and really denying the value. And they gave up Shiv Kelvin this game. They made that choice, right? Draft-wise. They just gambled that they had the response, that they could be able to weather that storm in the late game. And today they were right. But nonetheless, I don't know that this is the end of the Together Shiv. I don't think you take this game as Together and say, oh, I guess I can't play Shiv anymore. I think this really was just down to the wire in beautiful execution by Buff Enjoyers to get the win.
In the meantime, we have to go to a break. Hopefully, we'll have an interview ready for you on the other side. If not, we'll be kicking off North America. Final thoughts on EU ZP. Were you surprised with the end result?
I'm never surprised with the end result here in EU. The one constant that we get is incredible games here at Deadlock Night Shift in the EU. We saw big meta changes from the patch, and we saw Mina rise to prominence at the end of those changes. We saw the resurgence of Shiv Kelvin. I mean, we had so many storylines here, but the one thing that you could say at the end of it was a fantastic series. And it just makes me look forward to NA to see what North America is cooking right after this.
Reminder, we are going to dress ZP up as Abrams. He promised to paint his skin with real paint blue. And of course, Jake is about 400 subs away from purring live in your bedroom. We're going to a break. When we come back, we'll tell you all the details. Hit the sub button in between. See you then.